Thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Edge. And it's Friday. It's the end of the week. We have a great cast with us today. We have joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Tom. It's always a wonderful Friday to be here with you all.
Glad to have you here. We also have joining us Culture Casino. How are you doing this morning?
Greetings, everyone. Welcome. I hope everybody's having an incredible Friday and you have an amazing weekend.
My bodyguard and assistant and producer and chef, Mexican Iron Man. How you doing?
Arriba, Andale, Mexican Iron Man here, providing security detail services for the great Tom Connors and our VIP ghost, Culture Casino, and the great, amazing Tom Conkle.
That's right. This morning we are joined once again by Mr. Tom Conkle. Welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
Welcome. Hey, and thanks for the welcome back. It's an honor to be with this group, and hello to the chat, and really fun to be here again.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and Andre may join us at some point today, and we may have other guests join us as well, but for now, this is the crew, and we're gonna get rolling here. Good morning, everybody in the chat. Glad to have you here. We got Joshua says happy Friday, guys. You'll have to phonetically spell your name out in the chat so I know if that's what you wanted or if it's something
Joshua.
Well, good morning, Joshua. You make it sound like a food when you say that.
I know.
I'm gonna pick up some Joshua. You want some? Yeah. Give me some with that green sauce. So, Tom, what have you been up to? It's been a little while since we've had you on here. You've hopefully been busy working.
Yeah, I am working on some stuff. As you know, I'm raising some funding for my next couple of features. I'm working on a TV pilot right now. We're in the shooting and beginning of edit stage. Also did a little bit of auditioning, which has been kind of fun for a part. Fingers crossed that thing happens. But yeah, I've been real busy with that. And there's another thing that I'm doing, which is a audio drama podcast. There's a thing called the Summer Stock of Podcasts. So I wrote an original half hour. It's sort of a parody of the old suspense radio show. So we're performing that live, everybody on Zoom all around the country for that Summer Stock. So I've been pretty busy.
Remember, if you need a voice guy,
you're the guy.
I can do voices.
One man
in the world. That's right. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here. I see Darth Maul in the chat. I have, let's see, Intercost, if I'm saying that right. Keck 44's here. KR Nut 82. Isaac Lemons here. Jeff C. Good morning. Yankee Doodle Dandy's here. AF Watcher 88. Lauren Taylor. Southern Viking. Leslie Tarkin. Hello. Scott Cook. Joey's here. Grand Wazoo says, hail Tom Conkle. That's right. We got Horseradish Power. We also have Sonder Hammerschlag here. We got George Bonney, LQ3, and so many more. Thank you for being here. We have Joker Voice and Duck Nation. And we've got Sandra saying hail as well. And Natasha says, hit that like button. That is right. She's swinging around that hammer, telling you to hit that like button.
Click that like you love it.
That's right. But yes, so you've been a little bit out of the news loop, you said, Tom, but we got a few news stories today.
Yeah.
First up, I'm just going to say it's kind of hilarious that Amber had her deal tossed out where she was trying to claim
to overturn it. Yeah.
Juror number 15 or whatever was a problem.
Yeah, kind of redefines grasping at straws at this point. It's like there's got to be a dignified way to just kind of step out and go, you know what, this is a you know what show, and just step away from it. She's certainly not helping women's causes with what she's been doing, which is the most important thing, is that those people that really do need help not be subverted by, this kind of nonsense. I'm very impressed that the legal system has kind of stayed consistent on this. Sometimes one court rules one way, one court, and it goes all over the place. It seems like there's a through line to this that it's over.
Yeah, I think the judge kind of had enough of her bullshit at this point. I think she can still do the appeal, but she has to come up with like $11 million
Yeah.
if she wants to do that, and I don't think that's going to be likely.
Well, it's all those donations to charity she made. She probably doesn't have them.
Pledges.
I'm sorry, pledges.
Synonymous. Pledges.
Yeah. One day, I've pledged to buy a Ferrari.
I tried that shit with my light bill. They weren't having it.
It doesn't really work that way.
No, it don't. I'm like, I'll pledge to pay you next month for this month.
And you talk about a nothing
pay
burger.
You Tuesday for a hamburger today.
I will gladly pay you Tuesday for
a hamburger today. Talk about nothing burger, though. I mean, what's the thing that she's ever done too that makes her, notable as an actress?
She was really smoking hot for a good number of years.
She married Johnny Depp.
Yep, that's it.
And she was smoking hot.
Yeah, but I'm in Hollywood. You throw a stick, you'll hit smoking hot.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, I know. I remember living in Santa Monica. It was tough to close down that production office that I had in Santa Monica at 5th and Santa Monica Boulevard.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a gene pool that's designed to have everyone really good looking move here and breed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
damn
I'm
breeders.
I don't want Tom Conkle, but I respect you so much. I don't want you to think Mexican Iron Man was some kind of man whore, though.
Well, you are, but that's okay. We don't tell
Isn't
everybody.
that redundant anyway?
In this world, you're probably right, Tom. Like they're probably synonymous.
It's funny,
just like
men
pledge
women,
and pay.
Yep.
But yes, thank you again, Yashua. And then Darius Munchausen sends us in some popcorn. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Zontar says Toronto Indy on Sunday will be Peacock exclusive. F1 and NASCAR will be paying attention to viewership. We'll learn if sports is ready for streaming. Good point, Zontar. I'm sure Culture will be kind of keeping an eye on that out of the corner of his eye. Yeah. And I think I seen this. Frankie Muniz might actually go pro. Did you guys hear that?
Really?
Oh. Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah.
Good for him.
NASCAR, I think it was. They were talking. He's
was I mistaken? Did I read he had some illness or some kind of something?
I think like a couple years ago or something like that. But he must have recovered or something.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. There was
now that you say that, yeah,
he kind of dropped out of the public view because he had some health problems. I thought.
Yeah, but I guess he's in talks with possibly driving for a NASCAR team. Yashua. There. Yashua. Hope it's clear now. Yes. Thank you, Yashua. I don't think we'll forget that from now on. And I'll forget it tomorrow. Liam Smith, no, I'm kidding. Liam Smith sends in $1.99, says, Tom, please do a Shadow the Hedgehog impression. Boy, I'm trying to remember what he sounds like. I can come up with something just by what I remember the image looking like, but I've never watched the cartoon. But how does something like this sound? I don't know. There you go. Does everybody wants what's his face to play him? Christian Bale.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
Then we've got a member chat from Gonzalo Bergali, who gifted 5 Midnight's Edge memberships to Retro Amateur, Daniel Hall, Freddie York, Cobra Khan 007, Dr. Dragon. Congratulations. And those are random, so thank you for that, Gonzalo. A big helper at the channel here. Olaf Venice says Eric July reached 1.75 in 70 days to go still. Absolutely amazing job. Congratulations, Eric, on that.
Yes.
For Tom, you may not know, Eric July, the YouTuber, just started
I saw that
campaign for his own comic book that he
I was really proud of him. I saw a thing on Twitter where he, in the first day or so, he raised a lot of money.
Yeah.
People are hungry to see some good indie stuff.
That's true.
Yeah. Just like Gabriel Knight says here, hail to Eric July, the soon-to-be $2 million man.
Yes.
We gotta do that after his name.
Buying a ticket for something when you need it. Yeah.
I see.
We can rebuild.
I see his campaign. I see his campaign hitting 3 million. He has 70 days to go. I mean, you know, and the way that these campaigns work now, of course, it's different because this is his own stuff. He's not going through Indiegogo or, you know, any of the other crowdfunding things. It's his own thing. It's already funded. The books are already ready to go. He's going to have to order another whole set of publications because it's sold out. That's a good problem to have if you're an independent. That doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
No, it doesn't. That's almost like capitalizing your company, where people are buying the product before when you need their money rather than when you've manufactured it, which is amazing as an artist.
But he's also shown that there still is a huge market for quality comics out there. People haven't been buying the other stuff because it's not what they want to buy.
Yeah, it's not terribly good.
If you can give fans what they're looking for in comics, what they've watched and bought for over 70 years, then you can be a successful comic book maker. And I think he demonstrates that. And, you know, the sales are there. People want to buy stuff. It's not that they don't want to buy things.
You're absolutely right. And it's interesting. Only in this time in history can an artist have a direct communication with the audience and get feedback and get money when they need it, when they're making it. But it's so hard that it's actually an art to raise the money. Like, he had to build those eyeballs over years to be able to get this. And so many people forget, they're like, hey, I'm going to do a comic. So they throw up a thing and they raise $500. It's like, he's been out there communicating with people consistently. And then he announced he's doing it.
Yeah, he's been out there for 9.5, 10 years. He's been out in the public, band, other stuff. He's been actively on social media for 7 years. This has been a long time, you know, and that's a lot of it too, is you've got to build that community, build that goodwill, build that film. And then you've got to find amazing people to work with you, which he did. I mean, one of the people, Ethan Van Sciver gave him, a couple suggestions on who to use and who's on the team and all that. So it's about having the right people, the right concept, and the right time. And here's, to me, what's been most interesting. When I look at the hate, when other people that would otherwise be his competitors on YouTube or in Comicsgate or independent artists, whatever, everybody's rooting for him. Yet these other folks over here on the other side of whatever political aisle, however you want to phrase it, they're nothing but hate. And that's because they're jealous, and that's because they're lazy, and that's because they haven't done the work, and they're unwilling to do the work. And they have bad ethics and morals, in my view, because, when someone else is really successful, people have one of two reactions at base. You're either happy for the person, and if you find it inspiring and motivating for you to find your own success, or you're jealous and hateful, and you're mad at yourself, and you're mad at them, and you're mad at the world that you don't have the fruits for the labor that you didn't put in order to get the fruits of the labor that you want.
Yeah, good point. And so somebody's always going to try and knock you down if you try and do something, and that's just a given.
Yeah.
And was this, and let me know, gentlemen, did he break a record with this book? Because I've never heard of anybody making this much on comics in this period of time, in such a short period of time.
As an independent, you're possibly right. I mean,
because I think Earthworm Jim did pretty good as a Kickstarter / Indiegogo thing. But no, I think you're right. I mean, and
so did the Expendable ones too.
Yeah,
those were through like
Berserker, right?
But weren't those through like Kickstarter or whatever?
Indiegogo, I think was.
So like with him doing this on his own, completely independent, it might be one of the biggest things since like they started whatchamacallit, when they did what's the company that did Spawn, when all those comic book artists made
Dark Horse? Was it Dark Horse?
I thought it was
so Earthworm Jim, if that's what you're talking about, I've had
an hour of sleep, you'll have to forgive me.
Has had multiple campaigns. But Rippa's is the largest, fastest, most successful campaign in independent comics ever.
Wow.
Oh shit, we gotta behave.
Culture, you mentioned Berserker, right? That was the one that Keanu Reeves was involved with, right?
Yeah. Very high profile.
And good morning, Andre.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you sound like you're on the phone.
Yeah. But Culture,
that's interesting. New headset.
Berserker did not make this much money in such a short amount of time, right?
No, it doesn't look like it. I just looked it up, and it's like 1.4, and it took a while. It was, and it had Keanu, which talk about having instant press.
Right.
Yeah,
Image. It was Image, Tom.
Yeah,
Image
I was thinking
Comics.
in print, but I was trying to like that ain't an Image. Thank you guys. Yeah, and I mean, I guess if you could consider that independent when they first started, that's probably the closest I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is the fastest, most successful, highest volume selling independent campaign in this genre. Period.
Oh, so
Bar
proud
none.
and so happy for him. So happy for Eric July.
Now, is it new characters or is it characters that people are familiar with?
No, he's made his own characters, his own universe, everything. Yeah,
that's interesting. And people don't know anything about them yet. It's a new thing.
I think other than what he's teased and stuff like that.
That's fantastic.
It's correct.
That's wonderful.
I came into YouTube. People may think that I came in on all this pop culture media stuff. I came into YouTube over 4 years ago, very heavy into Comicsgate, and I'm still of all of the different things that I'm a comics guy first. So yeah, this is a brand new title, brand new universe. He's created himself. There's been nothing out there. There's been no mini books or anything, and that speaks to the goodwill. It also, I believe, speaks to the thirst of original content that people are thirsting for right now.
On that note, Callum Lyle sends in 10 Australian dollars from the Outback. Says Spawn was Image. Yes, thank you. We got that, my friend. And I never thought I would agree with that Orange Man, with what the Orange Man said. Leftists are terrible. The amount of backlash they give Eric July was vile, and I thought they were all about diversity. Yeah, we actually saw a lot of racist comments and everything like that, but
That's unreal.
Compared to the 2 or 3 that Moses Ingram was able to.
Yeah.
Wow, 1.5. That's the top.
Well, he's up to 1.7 now.
That's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a
The
snapshot
problem
that
with
I
diversity
took.
is they're not into diversity of thought. That's the problem.
Dr. Long Dongler sends us a thumbs up. Be careful where you're putting that thumbs up, sir. But please hit that like button. Give us a thumbs up. Satan's Glory Hole says Iger is just pissy or thinks he has a shot in 24. We're going to get into that. That's the top story of the morning, my friend, and that's probably why Andre's here. So let's not waste any time since we're going to have limited time with most of our cast today. But how's your sabbatical been, Andre, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, it's been hectical.
You've been working and doing other stuff, so yeah.
Yeah, it's vacation to the extent of which you can have a vacation as a YouTuber, which means you don't ever really have a vacation.
You don't have a vacation.
Yeah,
it's like being self-employed with a vacation. You get to work all the time.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Yeah.
I went to the UK. I had a nice dinner with Mr. H of Mr. H Reviews.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah,
terrific.
And then I continued from there to Spain, where I'm right now in the Canary Islands, which is awesome.
That's fantastic. I saw recently in Europe there's the first level 4 heat warning in the UK and the highest temperatures ever recorded in Europe coming up.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 118 in Italy, which is crazy hot.
Yeah, it's been pretty intense. So
Yeah.
in the Canary Islands is ironically off the coast of Africa, so it's not so bad there. But
Yeah.
when I was in the UK, my God, that was hot.
Yeah.
And I look forward to the heat wave following me back to Norway when I return there in a couple of days.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you again.
Likewise.
So yeah, the big news this morning, for those, we're going to get back to Super Chats, guys, and I know we skipped a few and jumped around there to quite a few this morning, so apologies for that, but we are going to get back to them. But I'm going to bring up the I think it's Screen Rant or something like that version of it, but that's not the version I'm going to read here. And we'll see how much of this I actually read. But because this is a long article, because this actually comes from Business Insider originally, if I'm not mistaken.
They're hidden behind a paywall, so that's
Yeah.
brilliant. If you want to make sure that you have this exclusive that no one is going to read at your publication, then hide it behind a paywall and be sure that everyone is going to read it everywhere else. So great thinking there. Good business thinking.
Well, in the end, though, I think the big part is because, like I said, I don't know if we really have time to go through this whole thing because it is quite long, the original one. But the big standout in this is, I'm sure, what Screen Rant covers here, and that is Mr. Iger's feelings on Bob Chapek. Let me see if I can find the actual quote here. Well, they kind of just, do they even have the quote in here?
Since they're doing a synopsis of some other people's work, they may not have pulled a quote.
Yeah, do you know the quote offhand?
Let me see if I can find it, Tom. I'm sorry.
Well, I saw an article just recently here where Iger went so far as to say that Chapek was a novice, and he had instructed the Disney sources that it was considered one of his worst enterprise choices to have Chapek substitute him because they really clashed on style and where Chapek came from, which is, you know, more on the park side and not finessing the artists.
So yeah,
which is very important. You know, Warner Brothers made the same mistake. You had a whole bunch of people come in from tech companies like AT&T, and they're like, "I'm not gonna coddle Nolan. I'm not gonna. What's this thing about film? You know, and all of that." And those people did not do what you have to do. You know, it's more like being P.T. Barnum than being an executive. You need to three-ring circus it and make everybody kind of happy. Deal with all the crazy personalities you have to deal with in the film business or the TV business. You're dealing with entertainment people, show people, you know, the crazy people that, you know, would be the circus in Venice Beach. Those are the people you have to deal with. And having somebody who rises up through corporate, they don't interface with people like that. Like, people like that probably baffle them. I know I baffle executives. They're like, "Oh, you are just weird." And so as an artist, you want someone that's at least, even if they're, you know, an exec or a suit, as we used to always call them, you want somebody who still gets it. You need the person who said yes to George Lucas when he said, you know, I've got a thing with spaceships and it's got a furry dog in it and all that. Alan Ladd Jr. said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Here's $10 million. Go make it.
Yeah. Someone who's willing to take a chance on art, even if it's not something they care for necessarily.
Exactly. But it's friendly to the artist. Like, you show up, you know, at the screenings, you follow their evolution as an artist with interest, and you know, you're right. Take chances, and you may say, look, it's spaghetti on the wall to me, but at least I'm going to put some resources out there. I'm not going to go to a white paper or try and quantify it down to a thing of like, well, if we have this happen in the first 14 minutes in every one of them, and if we have this happen at the 25-minute mark, it's going to make money. You know, it doesn't happen that way. That's not how you get a Scorsese and a Coppola and all those people that came out of the 70s. That was executives going, we don't know. Hollywood's broken. You do something.
Okay,
that's
well,
a point that I just want to say I agree with that point, but very few Coppolas came out under Iger. What came out under Iger were a bunch of crazies that have ruined the company.
I agree with you. I'm not saying Iger is that type of guy. I'm saying neither of them are.
Oh, well, that I can agree with. But anyway, yeah. Tom, you were saying.
Well, the basics of this whole thing is okay. The Business Insider article is Iger trying to save face, if you ask me. It boils down to two individuals from the inside were basically crying and pissing and moaning that Bob Iger left when he did, and they're blaming Chapek for everything. But what's hilarious is all the things that are happening right now are fucking Iger's fault.
Yep. Exactly.
And Iger's basically, I can't find the quote here, but he basically said that hiring Chapek or bringing Chapek up was his biggest mistake.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah, and I wanted to find the actual quote, but I'm having a rough time with this here today because behind a paywall, and I got like a copy and pasted version of it, and the other version I have I can't read for shit.
Okay, well, I think I have the article, Tom, that I grabbed through the workaround. So here we go. There you go.
So like, yeah, but ostensibly that's really what it is people bitching that he changed the way things were being run there at Disney.
Yeah, and all So
I'm thinking that if Iger's predecessor had written a similar article about Iger, it probably would have looked very similar.
All right,
very good point, Andre. Very good.
Yeah, and these are some of the quotes. So we'll start here. He got tired of, this is referring to Bob Iger. He got tired of all the things you have to do, added the Disney exec, who recalled going to Iger with day-to-day business issues in those final years, only to be told that the boss didn't want to engage. He really wanted to play around with creative and not worry about all the business crap. A person familiar with Iger's thinking disputed this, saying CEO was still engaged and simply felt that Disney Plus successfully launched in 2019. The company would be in good shape for a handoff. Iger's public assertion of power came as a slap in the face to Chapek, an executive familiar with Chapek's thinking. Iger was also lobbying the board, according to the Disney executive, to enforce the chain of command to keep him involved in decision-making. 3 days after Smith's Times column ran, the board gave Chapek a director's seat with lead independent creator Susan Arnold and Iger both singing his praises. Arnold would later take Iger's place as board chair. I'm trying to find the quotes. Okay, so the board wasn't thrilled with Iger's proposal. Let's see. Oh wait. Okay, here we go. Iger's proposal proposed that he continue to ensure that the pipeline of content to the company's multiple distribution platforms, while Chapek stepped up to manage the other parts of the company's business, according to the person familiar with Iger's thinking. The board wasn't thrilled with Iger's proposal and suggested that he consider making Chapek a chief operating officer instead, with Iger remaining as CEO until he was ready to fully relinquish his operational duties. The board and Iger continued to toss around multiple candidates, but Iger pushed for Chapek as CEO, said the person familiar with his thinking. Chapek, after all, had been in charge of two major units, parks and consumer products. Yeah. There was a belief in his integrity, this person said, and that he wouldn't screw it up. Chapek wasn't viewed as a visionary, this person added, but nor was Iger at the beginning of his tenure. No, he was a weatherman. So anyway, sorry, that's a little personal. That's me. Sorry about that.
I'm not seeing the bit here that I got. Iger's relationship with the board had been less than rosy in the years before he stepped down. The board was harassing Bob about his succession plan, and his planning was a notable failure, said a former Disney executive. Wow.
Interesting.
I don't see that anywhere in the article.
While Iger had been an extraordinarily capable CEO, it seems his blind spot was identifying the best person to follow him. Oh,
Okay,
so they're still trying.
There's something very weird about this story right here.
I know, it's
This
very
goes counter to everything that we have heard before. What we have heard before. I think this is some rewriting of history.
I do too.
It
This is
what
on the
we
heels
have
of Bob
heard
Iger's
before.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, what we have heard before, for those that are in doubt, is that Iger never appointed Chapek. Chapek was a board appointee, the
That's what I
same
thought.
board that wanted Iger to step back. I think that this is some kind of piece where Iger is trying to rewrite history.
Yeah, I mean, here it is right here. He says the former Disney exec, and this is to support what you just said, Andre. It said that in the years leading up to his exit, Iger felt that the board had not fully appreciated his leadership. He said, and this is a quote, he was tired of being harangued about succession and said, fine, you guys have someone else run the business. Of course, that was a decision that he greatly regretted as soon as COVID hit.
Okay, well let's take it back a step here. Why would the board be pissed at him? Oh, maybe because they just fucked Star Wars.
Yeah.
And he did.
$1 billion.
Let's be clear, like the Star Wars acquisition, that was not a successful one. Pixar,
No, not at all.
huge
And you know what
success.
else just happened? They just
Marvel?
spent $70 billion on fucking Fox. That's what just happened.
Yeah, that just happened too, and that I think probably got him essentially fired with the board.
I was gonna say the Star Wars thing they can
Lucasfilm-
overlook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a cash drag, that's for sure.
Lucasfilm they can overlook. Okay, it's fine. So it's going to take more time to be profitable than they had thought. But Fox, yeah, that was the wrong acquisition at the wrong time.
This article really flips it on his head, saying that and the board's decision to renew Chapek in June, even after a series of communications missteps, and amid an ongoing political battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Actually, it's the whole legislature, so just trying to focus on one man, appears to have been an attempt to put Iger's years firmly in the rearview mirror.
Mm.
Yeah. And, you know, and apparently Bob Iger felt his final Disney years were a disappointment. So this is a really interesting way to rewrite history. I think you're 100% right, Andre.
I think that there were many more people that thought that Iger's for the last few years were a disappointment, other than Iger himself.
Also, was he not on the Apple board from like 2011 to 2019, and Apple TV Plus was in direct competition with Disney Plus?
Yeah, he was developing both he was contributing to both the development of Apple TV Plus and Disney Plus simultaneously, which is a massive conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Okay, I got this part here that I think is, I don't know if this is in that one you got or not.
Yeah.
The board wasn't thrilled with Iger's proposal and suggested that he consider. Okay, you got that part in there?
Yeah, I think
Chapek a chief operating officer instead, and with Iger remaining as CEO until he was ready to fully relinquish his operational duties. So right there is the board saying they should consider making Chapek a CEO. And then it says here, the board and Iger continued to toss around multiple candidates, but Iger pushed for Chapek as CEO, said the person familiar with his thinking. That doesn't even... say when they were there. Yeah. That just says somebody who's familiar with his thinking. Okay, so that's somebody he told.
That's
a little vague.
Article.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question, and this I'm going to pose at Andre and Tom Kunkel.
Yeah.
Was this somebody that was recently fired, maybe a high-profile person who used to work for Fox and was an executive that might have been gunning for a gig, a higher gig?
Probably. That's a very good point, and they would have access to media, so you could drop down a sort of announcement press release to kind of create this situation. You're right, because as Andre said, it sounds like revisionist history. Do you agree, Andre?
Absolutely, and I think that's actually a really cool bit of conspiratorial thinking, because this right here, this seems vindictive, because what is the purpose of this article? That's the thing that I'm thinking. Whenever you have an article like this, someone wants to achieve something. But here's the thing. Chapek has already been renewed. He's been renewed for 3 more years.
Right.
He's not going to be renewed for any longer. I mean, if this article had come out like 2 months ago, it would have made sense. But now it comes when the board has already come out
smells like
firmly
sour grapes.
behind Chapek. This here looks like pure vindictiveness.
So I said it smells like sour grapes. Yeah.
Yeah. And nothing else. This sounds like someone that's trying to create distance. This looks like, what it looks like to me is that this is another sign that Chapek, he's about to do a complete reversal on the politics of Disney. And someone is trying to create distance. Like, look, whatever happens right now ain't my fault. I was against this guy the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm a good, virtuous wokey. That's what he's trying to say right here. Don't blame me for what's about to happen to Disney.
I think this is pieced together between a phone call from Iger, and he probably gave him a preview of his upcoming book. And I think you're right, Culture. I think this is somebody talked to Peter Rice.
Well, and not only that, I mean, there are 2 people that were lined up at the company before. It's even outlined here.
Yeah, they say that too, yeah.
Yeah, and both of them left in 2016 because of a $1 billion fiasco called NGE, which included the My Disney Experience and the new Magic Bands and everything else, because that was like $1 billion over budget by the time they finished it up. So, and that was Jay Ruslo and Tom Staggs. Staggs is now running SPAC, a group that constantly buys other entities and takes them public. But it's very interesting, and I imagine that Eisner has not made life a picnic for Iger either. So wow, there's a lot of people.
What was the part about? Was this? I don't know if this part was in there either. Chapek, after all, had been in charge of 2 major units, Parks and Consumer Products. That was in there.
Yeah, and I read
they
it.
Were okay. I wasn't sure. I was.
Yeah, Parks and Products. Yeah,
but they were sure he wasn't going to screw it up.
Yeah, and so
Chapek was viewed as a visionary. This person added.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness in there. Like, for example, 2 former Disney executives. So we just mentioned Russo and Stagg. So, but anyway, told the insider they were piqued at their former leader for stepping down when he did.
That's in here. Yeah.
They are powerless to do anything but wring their hands as the stock price and their 401k plans languish.
Yeah.
One close associate, here it is. One close associate of Iger's told Insider it still pains him to see Chapek stripping Disney of all that he built.
And the only thing he built was wokeness and loads of it. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about political activism because that is what
they get into that
is stripping away.
They get into that at least on my end here. I don't know if they do on the one that he's got. It looks like the version you have there, they just kind of flip-flop some things around here.
Yeah, this is pulled from the site. I mean, this is
it's all pretty much worded the same too. It's just because they do get into the don't say gay business here. Where is it?
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
I think I read it.
That's
too.
a big virtue signal in there, there.
That seems more like a Cliff Notes version to a point, but
possibly. But
pretty much got mostly everything in there. It seems
this was it. So. Yeah, and the board's decision. I read this, but I'll read it again. And the board's decision to renew Chapek in June, even after a series of communication missteps and amid an ongoing political battle with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, which I pointed out was actually the whole legislature. But anyway, appears to be an attempt to put the Iger years firmly in the rearview mirror. Yes. Chapek's trying to put Iger and all of his sycophants and flunkies, behind in the background. I mean, that's what's happening here. Anyway.
Okay, is this? I don't know if this is worded this way in there, but the transition didn't roll out as Iger had planned, and he remains unhappy with how it was handled. Said one person closely familiar with his thinking. Again. Someone familiar with his thinking. Disney, known for its superb marketing and textbook public relations and investor relations, began stumbling. Chapek and Iger had different ideas about how to handle COVID, how the company should be structured, and where Disney's politics should be. They even had different corporate advisory teams.
Yep.
So you had 2 competing fucking teams. Jesus Christ. Sometimes working against each other. Sometimes they were constantly probably working against each other.
Exactly, because he said it right there. Team Iger are woke.
And Team Chapek.
They are, team.
But guess what? There's no civil war going on, Andre. There is no civil war.
At all.
None at all. Not at all. Sorry.
It's so fun how all of this is validating everything we've been reporting
for the last
2 years.
2 years.
You've been saying for the last year, and everyone said you were crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so all right. So then it goes on here. Even after finally wrapping his Disney story in December, Iger has found ways to register disagreement with Chapek's decisions and is concerned about the company's performance. From an ugly contract dispute with Black Widow star Scarlett Johansson to a battle over Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill legislation. At least they said so-called. To handling of top exec, here we go, Peter Rice's exit. Chapek has made several prominent missteps. Would you call those missteps, though? Would you really? I think he kind of
which side you're on. Yeah,
I was gonna say.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
it depends on which side you're on. If you are a cultural Marxist, then it's absolutely missteps.
I mean, in the Scarlett Johansson situation, the only ones who come out of that looking not so good were Scarlett, her manager, and Iger, and Feige,
and Feige. Let's not forget Feige.
Yeah, and Feige, of course.
I mean, people keep on forgetting. Yet Chapek won that. Chapek annihilated that whole situation. They like to rewrite history and claim, really bungle that. No, he didn't bungle it. He handled it masterfully. It was a situation that shouldn't have happened. That's on Team Scarlet, and he just ended it.
And the Florida bill thing, he didn't want to get involved. They forced him into getting involved. And what happened?
Exactly.
So again, and then with Peter Rice, motherfucker was going for his job. What would you do? And like we've said before, he couldn't have just, fired him for no good reason. He had to get, that has to get approval from the board.
And I'm pretty sure that Iger would have wanted Peter Rice to supersede him because that's another Wokey like himself, and then he could ride that to the presidential campaign. Like, look at what I did to Disney and what is still happening to Disney.
Yeah,
where my influence is strong felt. Whereas right now, what's bad for him is that Disney's going to be a completely different company. by the time 2024 comes around, and if he still wants to do a presidential bid, which may happen, we'll see if the current one gets the necessary party support to run by the time we get there. He's no longer going to be able to point to Disney as a woke success story. Quite the contrary.
Well,
Mikey is still technically in the background, but he had to, I don't know why he did it. He could have just wrote this to us or hopped in and said it quick. Mexican Iron Man sends in $49.99. Says the source of this article is Business Insider, which is a major big deal. And of itself, this article is the best proof to date that everything Cameron, Pasha, and Tom and Andre have been reporting for 2 years. Midnight's Edge team mic drop. Boom. Thank you for that, Mikey.
That's true. And
he's being less modest than we are in that respect. But yes, this is pretty much what we've been saying is going on this whole time. There's so much more to break down here, but we're about to lose a lot of our cast here this morning. So I don't want to go too much deeper into this because I'm sure I'm sure this is going to be one of your next editorials, Andre.
Oh yeah, I'm already planning it. This kind of goes with what I say, that when you're a YouTuber, even when you have vacation, you never really have vacation.
That's right.
No, I haven't seen the business end of vacation in a long time.
One day I'll give myself one.
Yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, I have to step out, gentlemen and young lady. I appreciate being here today.
Absolutely.
Tom, thank you for inviting me. Tom Conkle, it was great to see you again. Andre, I hope your vacation well. And I hope you have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Mr. Connors, I will see you later this weekend. Everybody have a great day. See you.
If I'm not dead already.
Terrific. Great to see you.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's already been a late night. Let me tell you. What's next? California announced it's annexing Texas. You never know in this day and age.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. I mean, you'd like to laugh at that, but really, can you?
Well, that's a problem anymore. You can't tell what's the difference between a real headline and the Babylon Bee anymore. Some days, it feels like.
Yeah, so the Onion feels like the real news.
But yeah, no shit, right? Like,
I think that's when the Onion lost their luster, when everyone else with legit headlines were competing with them.
Well, somebody is about to join us here who definitely deserves to celebrate this morning. Good morning, Mr. Pasha. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hey, Kamran.
A little surprise visit. I saw the link come on. I said, you know what? Let me just come in and say hello. I can only stay on for a little bit, but it appears Mr. Iger is humiliating himself. That's what I understand is happening. So yes.
Oh,
it's
he's
funny that we're even talking
shit
about him at all. I mean, he's supposedly gone and done, and here we have these new news things going. Say, I was right. You know.
I mean, I actually had people were asking me, "Are you going to post about something on my Patreon?" I said, "I don't know. What is there to say? I mean, this guy is humiliating himself. You know, it's making him look really bad. Even people who support him are like, hey, hold on, what's this, right? And it really is shocking to me. This seems to me like a very sour grapes kind of situation. We always knew that Mr. Iger was not happy with Mr. Chapek. That was, we've said that here on this channel. I've given my opinions on that based on the stories we're hearing about, his body language at meetings where Chapek was there. But I think what we stated on Midnight Sets going back to February last year, that the moment Bob Chapek asserted himself, he was going against Iger, and Iger kept sending his various minions to try to push back and get this guy back into the shadows. That was all theorized based on just looking at the information that was publicly available to us. Now, Bob Iger has essentially confirmed everything Midnight's Edge has been saying for a year and a half by putting it out himself, in the process making himself not look like a great leader. Whatever one may think of politics, and I don't want to get deep into politics, but for the most part, President Obama kept largely silent about his successor. He, at various political moments, did criticize him, but he, compared to the rest of his party, wasn't as actively attacking as was happening.
Mm-hmm.
However, this gentleman should have learned that lesson, right? Because you got to preserve your dignity, especially if I'm seeing things in the chat. People are saying maybe he's trying to put himself up for this imaginary presidential run that I think was never going to happen and now is definitely in the grave. But this makes you look, these public revelations of your own incompetence and of your own Machiavellian, poorly executed Machiavellian dealings don't make you look good. And I don't understand the psychology here, except that this is essentially almost like a childish explosion that I think was triggered by the fact that Bob Chapek outsmarted him on every single level. And now when Chapek, just last week I came on to celebrate with all of you that Bob Chapek had gotten the victory that a lot of people thought was impossible. He was going to get this 3-year renewal that happened early, despite all the events of this year and all the embarrassments he's had to endure. I believe there's a reason we're getting this report here now is because I think it sent Iger over the edge, just like it sent a lot of people,
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the industry, it unhinged them, right? Tom, you're right. It's something, a screw came loose because
Kamran, I have a theory. I want to hear what you think. What do you think about this theory? I think that he is trying to distance himself from what is about to happen to Disney, because Chapek is now going to let every single woke project come out and fail miserably, and then he's going to keep on green-lighting politically neutral projects, thereby ending Iger's political extreme project once and for all. Now he can no longer point to his legacy at Disney. Iger's Disney is being dismantled as we speak. I think this is him trying to rewrite history with how he was against Chapek the whole time. He's against what's happening. He's doing his final virtue signal to try to salvage his legacy with his peers in the cocktail parties, because there's nothing else left.
It's what I call the club, right? I mean, this has all been about the club. If the club has been pushing delusionally to try to bring this guy back, if you all recall, as late as early this year, there were reports, Bob Iger is being positioned to take over.
Daddy Iger, come save us.
Yeah, I mean, as earlier this year, we had these reports that Iger was coming back, and I was like, Iger's seeking this stuff because he's desperate for that last return to the stage, and Andre, the theory you're positing here, I don't even think it's a theory. I think his own words have revealed it, right? He's definitely claiming, that he had nothing to do with everything that's happening. He's trying to wash his hands of everything. I think there's truth in there. I think he didn't want Bob Chapek. I think he wanted Peter Rice, the gentleman Bob Chapek. That was the beginning of the triggering event when Peter Rice, the man who should have gotten the job in Iger's view, who would have continued his legacy and helped Iger to continue being perceived by the cocktail party club as their great leader who reshaped Walt Disney, this conservative, studio head, reshaped his legacy forever.
That old racist white man, yeah.
I mean, that's what they that's
no, and I agree with you, Cameron, that I think his presidential run is done. I don't think that he has any aspirations anymore for that. I think at this point it's more saving face. And I think you're right. I think Andre's on point. I think this is him basically having a refest because Chapek just got a 3-year renewal. And that's the other thing is they're kind of ignoring, but yet I think the Business Insider article, if I read the whole thing, it would probably do a pretty balanced view so far from what we've read. And that is basically all this stuff that's coming out now is still from Iger's regime, right? Yes. Like that's the thing that people need to remember. And I think that's what he's trying to distract from. He's more like, look at this over here. Just forget about the fact that all this stuff that's happening right now is still my fault, I think is the other thing he's trying to do with this as well.
Tom, I believe you predicted this. I believe you called it the final re.
I did. And I did for a while say that the final re was going to come out of Disney, but it's actually starting with Disney, and I think it's going to end with Amazon. That was my change, but yeah.
You may be the seer on this one because I think Lord of the Rings I don't think is going to perform the way they expect. I think it's going to do fine. I don't think it's going to be worthy of the $1 billion that they spent on it. We'll see. But I think the world is changing in ways that these moguls didn't expect because they got into a cushy bubble. right? That they couldn't see what was coming, that the events that they set into motion would create a backlash that would unravel things that they were trying to do. They couldn't imagine that. That's how the club thinks. The club, I actually had this conversation, again, back on politics, but it was more broadly on politics. I had this argument really on a screenwriter's board a few days ago. When, get careful what I'm saying here, but with regard to the events of the Supreme Court's decision on Roe versus Wade, right? You can imagine that was a very
he totally freezes.
So on a screenwriter's board for about 1 week after that event, it was just the same old standard tit for tat conversation, evil Supreme Court justice, out of touch with America, out of touch with democracy, blah, 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 blah. So after about a week of watching my colleagues and friends sort of saying the same things over and over with no pushback at all, I posted something that really agitated a lot of people, which reflects now back to what we're going to talk about Iger, which is I said, I don't think any of you are seeing that we're going through a culture shift here. That I'm not making any comment about the justice or injustice of this decision. I said, I'm just stating that I don't think you understand. There's actually a pendulum swing happening culturally and politically, and it was set in motion by the extreme progressive social agenda that we here in this industry have been pushing. I phrased it like that. There was silence for a while on the board, and then an explosion of anger because I had shaken up the bubble, right? And people just, you could tell the angry responses were always respectfully, Kamran, respectfully. That was when the person was exploding at me, right? And I wouldn't back down. I said, guys, you don't understand. We've set in something in motion that's going to have a reaction to the general public and to the nation and to the world. People don't want this stuff, right? And they couldn't grasp it. That's exactly where Iger is on this emotional place. He couldn't grasp that he set in motion the events that have now led to the erasure of his legacy for the better, I think, and the beginnings of the new legacy. And you are absolutely right, Tom. And I've said this. People on my Patreon have asked me, why is Ironheart still coming out? Shouldn't Chapek have killed that? I said, no, he's not going to kill that.
It was already in production. What the fuck's the point?
Yeah. I mean, he theoretically could take the loss, but it doesn't make sense from the man that he is, which is two things he's going to accomplish, which you're right about, Tom, which is that he's going to let this thing come out, and I think it probably will not be successful. I'm not going to prejudge the show. I mean, I'm not going to say the comic was terrible. I just think that it doesn't have an energy behind it, right? I don't think it'll succeed. And that Chapek said, well, see what you did.
Well, I think another side of this too is he's got another level to this, right? Like we've been saying this for the last 2 weeks or so here now since we've gotten this news is Star Wars is not going to be his first priority. Script and I both agreed, and I think everybody kind of agreed with that, is that Marvel is going to be his first priority because Marvel is heading down a bad path right now. And I think at this point, he's got to let Victoria Alonso and Kevin Feige fall flat on their face a few times so that he could say, see, I was right.
Yeah. Right.
You have to let that happen. It's just like, the kid, you tell them, don't stick your finger in a light socket, and they still do it. Sometimes you just got to let it go and happen, or they're not going to learn a lesson otherwise, So.
And on that, Tom, I would again, because I'm stuck on this because it's important to me. I will suggest that Chapek also has shown us that there's a better way to do Marvel, against Feige's will. The reshot, reinvented Ms. Marvel, which concluded this week, which I thought the finale was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. To me, it was the entire show was the best MC show, but it was a completely reshot show over a year. That wasn't what Feige wanted to do. And from what we're seeing, he's not doing that with Ironheart. In fact, as I did write on my Patreon, he's, I think, letting Feige double down. We've got Mr. Alden Ehrenreich from Solo, who's been cast in that. And I wrote on my Patreon, I was like, with no disrespect to Mr. Ehrenreich as an actor, he's got baggage. He's got baggage from the only failed Star Wars movie. And a lot of people are not going to watch this show for that reason, right? Even, regardless of what they had. So I said, he didn't intervene in Ironheart. He said, okay, I'm going to look these guys.
I don't think he really intervened in Miss Marvel either. I think that was just a fluke that you had what's-their-faces behind it as creatives, and that helped. I think that Chapek doesn't quite have the creative control on the Marvel side of things that he'd like to have. I think he's got to allow them to fail. Like, because Feige has come out and said, yes, he did, underestimate Chapek, but that doesn't mean that he still has to listen to Chapek yet. Because Feige can get away with not listening to him for a while until 2 or 3 more of these movies fail, right? Like
There's something that you reported on here, which I want on Ironheart, which I want to bring back to for a second, because I think Midnight's Edge did quite a bit on this, which is that there were these rumors going out there that there was a fight, public fight or argument at least, between Bob Chapek and Kevin Feige in front of the board at a time when Chapek really hadn't asserted himself. People assumed he was just a shadow guy that wasn't really in control, which he was to some degree. Then the stories, and I think our friend Doomcock also wrote about this, the stories that Chapek had challenged him when he said, "Well, what are you doing with it? What are you doing next with this Phase 4?" He's like, "Well, I got this Ironheart, Riri Williams." He's like, "Isn't it? Here are the numbers on the success of that comic. It wasn't very successful." And apparently, Feige was quite shocked this guy do anything about it, had the data in front of him, and embarrassed him in front of the board. And that, in my opinion, I think, and I've said that on here, Midnight's Edge, that began the bad blood between them, because nobody likes to be public embarrassed, certainly not in front of the board, right? And so Feige started doing this little rebellion, which is, "Hey, Scarlett, why don't you sue this guy? Why don't you sue this guy for me, baby?" And then that blew up in his face. And if I'm Bob Chapek, I've seen this guy strategically, but he has a very Machiavellian sense of revenge, right? Which is what you're talking about, Tom. And so he's like, not only is he going to let this play out, which you are correct on, I think with Ironheart in particular, is like, "Oh, you start drama with me over this thing, you got it, baby. Let's let you do it. Let you take it all the way, and let that be your tombstone, because you messed with me because of this." Instead of
and I think that project's ill-conceived all the way from beginning to end, but that's a whole nother conversation here. But
yeah, well, again, like I said, I'm gonna always be the voice of, I hope it's okay. Nobody wants bad.
Well, of course not. But I think the fact that they're doing a Black Panther movie without, right after Chadwick Boseman passed away and all this other business, and there's just too much baggage with it at this point that I feel like, of course, the newer stuff they've been putting out there only has Wakanda Forever on it. And that's one thing I said early on, is like, if you're going to do this, drop the Black Panther and only call it Wakanda Forever. Because then that way you're not banking on the Black Panther name, and he's not in the movie. But like I said, that's a whole nother conversation to be had here. But I know we're going to be losing Andre pretty soon, and Tom and Cameron at some point here as well.
Yeah, I'm going to I get about half an hour or so. Yeah.
Okay, so Andre, was there any specific things that you wanted to key in on in this article before we lose any of these gentlemen here?
Well, I think we covered, honestly, most there is to cover. As I said, I do believe that this is him trying to rewrite history. Because what I thought was fascinating here is that there appears to be a number of things which don't jive too much with what we've heard before. Like we have heard before that Chapek was always the board's decision. It was the board that appointed Chapek, not Feige. No, sorry, not Iger. Whereas here, Iger is trying to make it sound like, oh, this was his worst decision. And to me, I think that's kind of like just.
Well, we kind of get both sides to that, actually.
Yeah, like it's like deliberately vague.
Because it's like the board is pushing him.
Rewriting history.
Yeah, it says the board wanted Chapek to do it, and then it's like it sounds to me like the rewriting side of it is Iger didn't want Chapek. He was trying to push for these other people, and they said, "No, we want this guy. Do it." And he's like, "Fine, you can have your way." But like you said, it's kind of like that rewriting of a story when somebody's trying to make themselves look better and it's not working. Kind of like Amber Heard.
and there's another thing of that. There's a level of because I think there's a lot of demented stuff happening here. It's psychological, and in my opinion, and I think that there is this. He's rewriting for himself. That I do think that he didn't want this guy. Chapek wasn't the kind of guy that he wanted to continue his legacy. I do think Peter Rice was who he wanted, but to admit that in public, would we admit that he got shut aside by the board, which is also humiliating for his thing. So in his view is like, I'll take ownership for this because I can't have people think the emperor had no clothes at that time. And seems to be all psychological defense mechanisms happening here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think part of it is, if you allow me to, Andre, yeah. I think this is part of it is where he's accepting the blame for that. It's like when somebody knows they're up for murder and they're like, I didn't do that, but I sure did do this thing over here. I robbed these people blind, distracting them with this over here, but I didn't have anything to do with that over there. That to me feels more like what this is. Does that make sense, guys? Like he's trying to
Dad, I crashed the car. Oh, and by the way, I got an F in math today. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's even a better example, right? Like he's taking the blame for Chapek's part of the blame for Chapek. Let's say he's not taking all the blame. He's taking part of the blame. What he's not taking blame for is the decisions that were made afterwards, right? He's painting the picture that it was nothing but a fight with Chapek, and he was reluctant, but he went along with the board on that and whatever, and it was just exactly admitting to a lesser charge, Joey. That was what I was trying to think of the term, but yes. So to me, that's what it kind of feels like. I could be wrong on that, but because the whole thing just seems convoluted and does not match up with anything we've heard before. And this, of course, comes from not a direct source that was in the room either. Right, it's coming from someone who knows Chapek's thinking, which could be either Chapek and Iger's thinking, which could be either Iger himself, or like we've been positing, probably Rice or 2 or 3 of those other people that are no longer there.
I think it's both, Tom. I think it's actually Iger telling Peter and those guys to put the word out there, because I think he would consider it inappropriate for him to talk directly.
And also, I think his book's going to have a lot of this in it too. That's the other thing, is why I think they may have got like an early manuscript of his book or something, and they're just not able to say that yet, because I think this shit's going to be in his next book. Yeah. What do you think, Andre?
Good marketing for the book, and he doesn't understand that.
Do you think Iger definitely has political ambitions very soon?
He did, but I think he knows that his chances are so slim now that
I think he has exactly. He has to try to distance himself from what is about to happen there, which is the dismantling of his legacy. Kamran, I did have one question though, because this, of course, was a pretty extreme full frontal attack on Chapek. Yep. Do you think there's going to be any kind of response or retaliation? Because this was the first. I don't think it's the last. I don't think that
actually
now,
we had a super chat.
Iger had his piece, and now has had his piece, and now he's done. No, he has a book coming out.
Yeah.
Mecca J actually asked, "Do you guys see Chapek putting out his own article in the trades, putting Iger on blast in response?" I think that's pretty much what you're asking here.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I'm asking.
Yeah.
When can we see the Forbes article taking down Iger a few notches?
Well, actually, this was asked.
How he responds.
This was asked to me last night by a Patreon member, and I actually responded to her that I could be wrong right now. We might see a response. I actually don't think we will, because I don't think Chapek needs to. He's in a position of strength, right? I think Bob Chapek now has his 3-year renewal. He's cleaning out the book. I think there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's going to start coming out in the form of people being let go, right? That we haven't known about. Again, from my members of Patreon who are Disney employees, they've said that Chapek has consistently, they've DM'd me this, Chapek has consistently said to Disney executives, ignore all this Florida drama, ignore my hostage speech. I'm on track with this. We're going to get the company out of politics. I'm not changing my policy. We just have to get the industry and the rest of public to calm down. And that's what I'm going to do. And that appears to be what he's doing. If that's a scenario, the last thing, he wants to do is respond to this. He's the winner here. If Genghis Khan has conquered a kingdom and deposed the king, and that king is rushing off into the wilderness to organize what he hopes is a resistance, but he doesn't have anybody, and he's putting out little words saying, "My people, come to my side. This is unjust." Does Genghis Khan even acknowledge that guy? That gives that guy power. No, I think if I were Bob Chapek, and so far I've had a decent ability to see how this guy thinks, I would just say, yeah, you keep saying the smack. I'm running the place. So make yourself look like an idiot. You talk, I'm going to act, right? And
he's not even going to say that. I think you're 100% right. He already did his mic drop. This is Iger trying after the mic drop already. Like, if you've seen, 8 Mile, right? The movie, when after Eminem does his thing and he drops the mic, that's exactly what has happened already when Chapek got his 3-year deal. And here's Iger scrambling to pick up the mic and trying desperately to get the crowd back in his favor. And I think that's not going to happen. I think you're right, Cameron. I don't think we're going to see any kind of direct article or anything like that coming out. What do you guys think, Tom? Do you?
Yeah, I think you're right. Cameron had mentioned a position of strength. Sometimes it's best to just step back and be godlike, and saying nothing is more of an answer. Definitely.
Since you haven't had a chance to really kind of address anything here, what do you think?
Well, I was listening to what everyone had to say, but if I were him, I would be humble and I wouldn't even respond to this. I'd pretend like what he said didn't even exist.
And you know what? Because you've said this now on this channel here, Tom. The direct analogy is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, because after Johnny has won, he's not talked about this anymore. He's off playing music with Jeff Beck and traveling the world. And she keeps putting out new garbage every day, getting on TV. He ain't coming on TV. He's got nothing to say. I won. See you later, lady. And she keeps trying to get, and it's making her look bad.
I actually have to say a funny thing about that, because Jeff Beck, he played in Oslo recently, and initially he was playing for like 10 people in the smallest venue, and the moment word spread out that Johnny Depp would be coming with him, it was instantly moved to the biggest venue, and an extra concert was set up the day after.
Yeah, good for him. Something positive.
I mean, they're friends, and it's helping both of their careers. Good for him. I mean,
it's probably good therapy for Johnny to just do something.
The other thing that I was going to say is that if you want people to believe the way that history is, you don't put it in a news article. You put it in a book. You want to have it in something like that. No one's going to go back to an article and say, well, this is what happened in history. They're not going to do that. They're going to go back to, a peer-reviewed journal, a research article, a book that, is a better account of what happened. So, that's how I would do it if it were me.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, that's the strategic thing, and a real book, not this kind of sad sack book that we're getting preemptive versions of my failures. Iger's.
No, it would be a celebration of everything you've done, and even if half of it is not true, it's from your point of view, and you're celebrating your accomplishments as one of the best CEOs or whatever your title was at the time. You're going to celebrate that, and it will come across as being more believable, and people will tend to believe that. But these articles are fine. It's just that, I don't think people are going to run to that for, historical references.
Yeah, I will say that Iger's previous book, Ride of a Lifetime, his years as a CEO of Disney, that book is not aging well, not at all.
Well, now it's a derailed one. Version 2 is how my ride got derailed.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. He's on like the almost like an apology tour of sorts. He's not apologizing, but it's like a mop-up tour. Let's call it that. It's a mop-up tour. That's why I say his political aspects are out the fucking door now. Now he's got to just save face at this point in his retirement years.
You hit it there, Tom. He's got to save face, and you said it earlier today, which is he's got to save face with the club. Right? He's got to save face with the cocktail party crowd. That's who this is aimed for. In fact, that's what all of this has been aimed for. Ever since earlier this year, we had several articles where like Bob Iger's coming back. That was set out for the club to say, I'm still one of you. Please don't exclude me, because they all were at this little, Moguls conference a few days ago, right? I don't know how many more Moguls conference he's going to be invited to in the years to come, right? And he's trying to stay in that. That's the ultimate loss in the shame.
His name is not on the list anymore, Cameron.
It is a lifetime. It's I love this picture. It looks like a presidential portrait, right?
He was hoping.
That's what that book was. I mean, that book, that was a campaigning book.
It was a resume for president.
It was such an obvious book from the very first chapter, how he tried to frame himself as this great
and remember,
father
the
of a
doesn't know what he looks like. They don't know what this man looks like, but they can see the book and they say, "Oh, that's what this guy looks like. That's what he looks
presidential."
Like."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
And the first thing he did was talk about China and all this other stuff. And
tie himself.
But no, this is actually more accurate image right here, to be honest with you.
Where'd you get this image? Did you create it? It's perfect.
That's great.
It's perfect.
See,
the even better one is the one where Chapek is working and you have like Iger looking.
Oh yeah, the looming
down on him. That one is the better one.
That's a good one too. So we got a few choice good ones.
Put this on a thumbnail for one of the videos. That's perfect.
Oh, we've used it a few times.
That's great.
We've gotten great traction out of that and other related images.
Yes, indeed.
Well, look, as pictures 1,000 words, right? Here's 1,000,000 words, and it says it all. But it also says the fact that the company is bigger than this guy waving away, right? And even the board members that were allied to him, and realize their futures, their reputations, their income is going to be impacted if Disney collapses. And that's why I think Chapek was able to do the 2-punch move of firing his rival, Peter Rice, and then shortly thereafter getting his early renewal. Even with people that they're not everyone on the board was, I think it's fair to say not everyone on the board likes him, and they're more like Iger because they were his friends and they were part of the club. But he said, okay, you guys can push me out, bring Peter Rice in here. Then in a couple of years, this company goes bankrupt or gets bought by Apple or whatever. You're all going to be out on your asses, and it's not going to look good for you, and you won't be invited to the same parties again. Like Mr. Iger is no longer being invited to the same parties. You don't want that. And they ultimately decide, yeah, we don't want that, even if we don't like you.
Well, let's be real here. The only reason he got renewed and he was allowed to fire Peter Rice was because he was right. Yeah. And because they got killed with that whole thing. And at that point, I don't think it mattered if anybody was supportive of him before. At that point, they're like, our bottom line's being, threatened here. This company is going down in flames, and it's all as a result of this former regime and those flying monkeys, as you like to call them, Kamran, that we're pushing this whole thing. And I think at this point, if Chapek has any revenge at all, it's not going to be in the public eye so much as the only thing that's going to be in the public is it's probably going to be another firing. It's going to be somebody that's a Bob Iger loyalist. And again, it's going to be another, anybody else got anything to say about Bob Iger? Now's the time, because otherwise, after this point going forward, I don't want to hear that name again, kind of thing.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, if there is a Forbes article or some other financial publication article that's really critical of the Iger legacy.
That would be interesting to see.
Something that may give Chapek plausible deniability. But where he then appears to be the bigger man, but then someone else, he can't control if someone else wants to do an expose at, look, this is the impossible situation. Chapek,
that'd be a good time for Waldron or whatever her name is to fucking.
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, kind of timed with the release of Chapek's book. If, like, for instance, the Forbes or someone were to review it and say, this book right here, this is just an excuse. Here's the reality. This is pure fiction. This is reality. Iger mismanaged this worse than any company has mismanaged, certainly in Disney history. I wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen, but no more than that.
Well, go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Kamran, because then after you're done with your whatever you're going to say, I think we're going to move.
Well, I think I did write about this on Patreon because I think what I'm going to give you a prediction. Can I give you a prediction? You want to get a prediction screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me give you a prediction because I wrote about this on Patreon, and I think not a lot of people are saying this right now, but I think that one of the things that's beginning to build that's going to surprise the industry is Chapek is already putting his successor in place, and it's not who the industry expects. I believe the industry expects Dana Walden, who was Peter Rice's close partner and friend, and who survived the execution of Mr. Rice by basically throwing him under the bus. They expect her to be the next CEO whenever his time comes to an end, whenever Chapek moves on. I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think the person he's grooming and setting aside is now revealing himself. I think it's Kareem Daniel, which would be, an amazing development because Kareem's been essentially his executioner and is going to be his executioner moving forward of Chapek's plan. And the reason is we saw, and I think our friend on thatparkplace.com, WDW Pro, had put out some very interesting news over the past few days, how Kareem Daniel was suddenly seen at Chapek's side in France, and that he seems to be the one that has been tasked with moving Disney forward on Chapek's vision. And if you recall, when Dana Walden survived the execution of her friend Peter Rice, she put out an immediate press release and she essentially took his job and he was out, and she threw him under the bus and said, okay, I'm going to keep the job, I'm not going to defend my friend and leave with him, right? Very Hollywood style. And she put out a press release that I thought was very, very interesting, because in that press release she essentially congratulated Bob Chapek for his vision, and then said to the company in this internal memo that we are here to execute his vision, not Disney's vision, not Walt's vision, not the corporate vision. She said, we're here to execute his vision. So she was sucking up to Bob Chapek because she had just seen what can happen, right, to her right hand, right? And she'd seen that. But also that was a sign that she was afraid. And someone who is going to be the future CEO who had been told. Some people say, well, maybe he said to Dana, you help me get rid of your friend and you're the next. That doesn't vibe with what I've heard about her. She's actually a very respected executive. I don't have any negative things to say about her. She's very well liked. And I've heard her name for years in this industry, right? But that struck me as the energy of someone saying, please don't fire me, boss. That's not the energy of someone that's going to take his place. However, Kareem Daniel is coming in and suddenly showing up at film festivals in France and hanging out with Chapek and allowing himself to be photographed out of the country. It's not within his normal role to be doing some of the things that he's been seen doing. He's literally being seen as Bob Chapek's right-hand man. So
and
I
with
think
good reason. Just to bring one thing up, like when Deadline Hollywood complained about this what's the term again? Ian? Byzantine structure. What that structure really is everyone has to get approval from Kareem Daniel. He's the point man. He is Chapek's representative.
No,
and he's
he's the one that gives the green light to everything.
Yeah,
No,
he's the last line of defense. He looks at stuff and goes, I don't like this creative stuff. It doesn't fit the family brand. Cut it out. So
exactly.
So it doesn't have to get to Chapek.
And I agree with you, Cameron. I don't think Waldron is going to ever get CEO. She could, but I think she's more of an opportunist. And I think that she knew that the writing was on the wall. And if she didn't turn over on Peter, that she was going to be gone too.
Yeah, she was.
I think that's really what happened there.
She's savvy about that, clearly.
I do have a hard time necessarily seeing them not going with a female CEO at some point here in the near future, but that all depends on how the next few years play out too.
Well, they got with Kareem Daniel, they have an African American CEO. Which
there you go. So
exactly
that's what I'm saying. At that point,
that trumps it.
Trumps it right there because
Which I think maybe Tom Conkle can agree on. I think one of the interesting cultural shifts, Tom, that I'm seeing, which maybe you're seeing as well in the industry, the era of the woke white woman is ending. That was a very powerful era. I'm feeling it ending now.
Yeah, I really feel like it's lost a lot of its steam, and you're seeing decisions, both creative decisions, but also executive level and things. You're seeing that kind of woke woman thing. There's no there to it anymore.
Yeah, and so that's, I mean, I've experienced it in my own career where I worked on a show that was, let's just say, heavily populated with such people. Yeah. They all ended up being fired. Because they weren't competent, they were put there for an identity purpose, and also because the club beneath the club, the Uber club is these moguls, right? And their public face had been, liberal white women like Captain King.
Exactly. Like, look how great we are, and I say these people always reach their level of incompetence.
Correct.
And that, in a meritocracy situation, sure, women can excel or whatever, but when you simply say, because we want to look good, we're going to elevate somebody who has absolutely no idea what they're doing, it doesn't help women. It makes them look like they're not competent.
And usually the competent women were being passed over because they
of course,
weren't getting along with the system.
Yeah, absolutely. The wokeness trumped the merit for the job.
Yeah, and Kareem Daniel, I think, look, he's still got a journey to become CEO, but I think if he pulls it off, everything suggests he's a competent man. And so
very
race or anything set aside, he's perfectly competent. And so I would love to see this man as the continuation of this legacy.
I do too. I long for a day where they don't even ask for race on an application in a job, where we just talk about. I didn't know he was black when you were talking about him, but it would
race
be nice
or sex.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, and that's the way most people see things now. It's the other side that's making it more of a big deal. That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. So,
and they're creating more division in that respect. But before we leave you, Tom, you have a very special event coming up with Mexican Iron Man, do you not?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. He has been a super fan for some unknown reason of my feature Trouble Is My Business. And so
don't question it, just go with it. I've learned that with Mike.
Being a big fan, which I am incredibly grateful for, he on the 20th of July, which is this Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern, he and I are going to do what is really going to be the only Q&A commentary deep dive that I've done other than Midnight Edge, where I talked with you, Tom Connors, and Andre about the film. But we're really going to get into indie genre filmmaking, because there's an opportunity here, given the machinations we see in the studio system and the sort of quantifying of art that we're seeing that's going on. There are capital investment, private equity investment opportunities to reach out to production companies like mine to create the genre entertainment that people can enjoy. And, just because you think of an indie film, it's not, two guys eating pudding on a sofa. It can be a 1940s detective film, which is what I ended up making with Vernon Wells from, Commando and Mad Max, and some other incredible talents from television that I've been lucky enough to work with. I made this genre film, and it made some money, and Mexican Iron Man is a super fan. So I wanted to open it up to the Midnight Edge audience. Midnight's Edge has been the support of my work, certainly Andre and Tom, but also everybody in the chat. Check it out if you're around. I will take live questions. We will pause clips. I'm the copyright owner, so I can show as much of it as I want. It's available for rent on YouTube, or not rent. If you want the color version, you can rent it, but if you want the black and white version, it's on my channel. If you could,
but you're going to be showing it at the same time you're talking about it, basically.
Starting it, stopping it. I don't want to ruin it. It's a mystery, so I'm going to talk about certain scenes and things. But I hope to make it not about me just going watch my film, but have a real discussion about the love of film, the real discussion of how do things get made? How, what's the weird journey? Because the same kind of I think you said Byzantine, Andre, the same Byzantine kind of way to make this is very similar to a film noir, in that there are betrayals, mysteries, all the things that go on into the making of a film as there are the film itself. So I hope to have a really animated discussion. I invite everyone, Kamran, everybody, come in and have a discussion, talk about your own work. And if you have questions about my film, I would love to know. You shoot an arrow in the forest and you don't know where it lands. So I'd love to hear anybody that's seen it and was baffled or liked it or didn't like it. I'd love to hear from you. And it's going to be, again, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. And it's called Trouble Is My Business. You can watch it on Tubi, and it's everywhere, and it's on Blu-ray as well. So looking forward to that, and I appreciate being able to plug it here.
It sounds great. I added it to my calendar.
Thank you so much. You're very sweet. I appreciate it.
And I have to say, I love your one sheet. I'm a
you.
fan of classic sort of TCM Hollywood, and it's got that vibe right there.
Yeah, it's very much that. I made it with the aesthetic that if John Huston had a red camera in 1947, this is the movie he would have made.
That's wonderful. That's
really it was a lot of work. It has almost 2,000 visual effects to create the world, because we had to get rid of everything modern, and everything was expensive. Hotels and getting places that all looked like the way things were. It's set in 1947, so it was very ambitious for an indie. I learned a lot. I fell short in some areas, and I think I did pretty good in other areas, but I learned so much, and I love it when someone watches it and goes, hey, I enjoyed that. That was wild. That's why I made it. And I'm preparing to make more ambitious films and preparing to build on what I learned, because this whole thing is a learning process, as you know, Kamran. And
well, it's the same. I really identify with what you just said, about how after you finish something, you're proud of it, but you see the flaws. Like I've got a short film, I do have a YouTube channel, which only has like a couple of short films that I've done. And the first short film I did, I'm very proud of it and won some awards, but I look at it and I'm like, damn it. I wish I had the resources to do that. I should have made that mistake. That was the wrong cut. Yeah. Most people aren't seeing that. And I think most people aren't going to react to your film that way, but you will.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know what it is. Nothing is ever finished. It's only abandoned.
Yeah.
But thank you for the plug, Andre.
No problem,
thank you for having me. I hope everybody in the chat will pop in and at least drop a thought bomb or a question in there about the film. And if you haven't seen the film, it is literally for free on YouTube. You can also see it on Tubi, Zumo. It's available on Blu-ray, like I say. So check it out. Ask some questions.
I've heard if you get sweet talk Tom Conkle enough, he might actually send you a signed copy.
I have in fact done that, Tom.
it may take a little bit of grease in the wheels.
Grease in the wheel. Say. Yeah, you sent me $1 and I sent it back.
No, it's basically, he just paid
That's
for
not Hollywood.
it
That's
and
not
the
Hollywood.
shipping, and he just signed it for me and sent it off to me, so it's amazing. But
Well, I think the
Yes.
difference too with this, and I will say this before we move on, is I love indie genre films. And so I'm trying to make what you'd be like, quote, Hollywood style B movies, but independently, which is very, very difficult, you know, but for me, the indie space has defined itself by, you know, creating some great stuff, you know, indie dramas or really edgy things or whatever, but you don't see a lot of people that are making what used to be like the B movie and try and make it quality. And so I've tried to plant a flag in that area, and I have some other projects that I'm doing with Vernon and other people that go from a budget of 2 million to 22 million. The one I'm doing for 22 would be an all Australian cast. It's a sci-fi. Another one for 2 is a contained space thriller I could shoot here in LA. But they're genre films. They don't even try to compete with Hollywood scale movies. What I find interesting is it costs nothing to have a good idea, and it's what you think that makes the difference.
Well, it's wonderful to see any film get made outside the system, and I know how hard it is to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a miracle. It's a miracle any movie ever gets made ever.
Yes.
It's a whole other level of miracle that you did it without like, you know, $1 billion corporation behind it.
Yeah, it was very, very, very difficult, and it is a small miracle. You know, it's a blessing to have it out, and I you know, gratitude is very important when you have it out. You are lucky to have something out because it puts you in a very small club.
Indeed. And to quote another film in the genre, forget it, Tom, it's Hollywood.
I got that reference.
I'm glad. I knew you would.
Thank you all. I appreciate the plug, and it's very, very interesting discussion. To all of you, thank you so much, and to the chat, thank you for your support.
God bless, Tom.
Thank you for being here again. It's always a good day when we get to have you get to stop by.
I will definitely be back.
Take care, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.
And then Cameron, how much longer do we have you, sir?
I've got about 8 minutes. I got to take off at 10:45 my time and get ready.
Okie dokie. Let's try and see. I think there may be a super chat or two for you here. Let me double check in the process of. Let me start you off with one, Andre, if you could. We got a member chat from Dark King on the Iger business.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed. And Dark King says, who is the target audience for this book? Is it Iger trying to save his legacy from the dumpster? That's one of two. Is there a part 2 to this?
There is. Let me bring it up here. I believe this is the second part.
Yeah. Or is he trying to start another rebellion at Disney? I can't figure out why he's doing this. That's a great question, Kamran. What do you think? Is this just to prep for his book, or is this the beginning of another riot? Maybe Iger still has dreams of coming back. What say you?
I think this article is a reflection of shattered dreams. I think that he was hoping to instigate a rebellion late last year, early this year, with all the leaks he was doing, saying he's going to come back and Chapek's going to screw this up. And I think he was jumping up and down for delight over the Florida drama and Peter Rice saying, I can take this guy's job, right? I mean, I think he thought this was my moment, and all that got taken away from him. It literally was a balloon pump. So to answer the first question, I think we've talked about this. I think that the audience for this isn't even the general public anymore. It's just his friends in Hollywood. He's just trying not to look like a buffoon to people, because this town has no mercy at all. It's cruel. Your best friend, look, as Dana Walter showed, your best friend will throw you under the bus, right? If you're seen as weak. And this is him showing I'm not weak, and it only makes him look weaker. So I think he's just accelerating his exit from the club.
Yeah, and we actually got into this, Gerald. I'm sorry. We missed your super chat when we were talking about it, but yeah, we agree with you. I think Iger probably wanted Peter Rice to
the town wanted Peter Rice. The trades wanted Peter Rice.
Yeah, they were like, how could they have fired him? Like, they couldn't believe it. They were knocked on their ass. They couldn't understand this move.
They were.
And that's what this article.
I've never seen it before, like that. That's such a reaction.
Oh, and if in the most humiliating way, he pulled him in the office, said, "You 5 minutes, you're fired, and I'm not going to tell you why. Get out." I mean, for this guy who's like a 40-year veteran of this town, that was unheard of.
Indeed. So yeah, that's why I grabbed that, since we already had covered that. And then we had one from Joey here who says, "Do you think Chapek is about to make another public firing and Iger knows? and his preemptive damage control. Massive thanks for tuning in, Cameron. Actually, that would go right along with something I said before. One form of Chapek's possible retaliation, if he were to take any at all, could be to fire somebody that would really piss Iger off. Go ahead, Cameron. Sorry.
I think that's coming anyway, and I think he'll be like, well, this gives me added momentum to get it done quickly, such as he wanted to get rid of Peter Rice for a long time. Right. But it was Peter. I knew that Peter Rice was finished the moment Rice put out his own press release during the Florida drama saying, I think the boss is on the wrong track. I'm like, dude, you can't be doing that. You can't be publicly, criticizing the boss in a press release. You're saying I'm going to take his job. That's going to end badly for you. That event triggered the subsequent events. So this event will likely accelerate some people being let go to remind the town. He doesn't care about Iger. Iger's out. He wants to remind, as he did with Rice, and wants to remind the town, just to remind you who's the big boss right now. So I'm just going to keep, you guys keep forgetting, I'm going to keep reminding you.
Indeed. And we got one more directed at you directly. I know that was a little redundant, but it's true. Werewolf sends in $2 and says, Cameron, I'm interested in a werewolf property.
I guess I suggest you'd like to pitch me something.
I think so.
Join my Patreon, DM me, and at the very least, I'll give you, critique, a response if it's a great idea. I've got a lot on my plate right now. I do love horror stuff. I'm actually, God willing, meeting with major horror producer in a few days. I wrote a spec horror pilot that he liked. And so I'm always looking for stuff that I could develop. I'm not actively looking to develop stuff outside of what I've got in my head, but join me on my Patreon and start a conversation with me. And I'll always be honest about where I am.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for that, Werewolf. And as long as you got a couple more minutes here, do you mind we keep going and let us know when you got to head out?
I have about 3 minutes, so I may unceremoniously head out in the middle of something, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, just let me know when you got to head out. On the Iger note, Matthew W. says, Iger trying to rehab his tarnished legacy classy. Yes, I think we all were kind of in agreement with that there. I don't think anybody could argue with that one. Gerald Armstrong says, I know you may not care for wrestling. What are your thoughts on Raw potentially going back to TV 14? I don't think it's a horrible idea, but I heard now that they're having a bunch of issues because of the whole Me Too thing with McMahon and all that stuff. But I don't know how much he's involved with that anymore. I'm not somebody who really follows it. Anybody here who really does?
No.
Sorry about that, Gerald.
I wish we had Rod Thunderheart who could give us a perspective.
Yeah, Rod Thunderheart. If he's in the chat, he could probably give you an idea or two. I'm sure there's plenty of wrestling fans who could give you their feeling on that. But honestly, with the violence and kind of the soap opera business, I don't see a problem with the TV 14 to begin with, to be honest with you. But I have not watched it in so long, I couldn't really give you an honest opinion. And I highly doubt Andre has either. So,
that's a matter on which I'm not qualified.
It's not on the Sega Mega Drive. Well, technically. Were you going to say something, Cameron?
I was just saying, I'm about to head out in a second. I think our friend Mike and Ayers just sent a super chat with my name on it.
Sure, I can grab that one. Hang on here. Let's grab that, and then we'll get back to yours in just a moment. Sorry about that, Hypergiver. But Mike and Ayers says, Cameron, now one of my favorite Facebook friends. The only person bringing up shows, movies without looking to pick a fight. I've tried.
Well, I don't know that I'm the only person, but I definitely, my perspective is I just want to have fun. I just want to have fun. And as a result, people are like, well, didn't you see that? What's wrong with that? And see what's wrong with that. I was like, I could have if I wasn't having fun. I watched The Last Jedi. I didn't have fun. I walked out of there really, really upset. And then I processed why I was upset, right? And then when I'm enjoying something, I'm enjoying it. And then people are like, well, didn't you see that was wrong? And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. That would have been wrong with it. But for whatever reason, emotionally, that thing worked for me. So that's the kind of fan I am. Not everyone is there, and that's fine.
All right. And with that, you said you had to head out, Cameron. So we're going to share your Patreon and plug that real quick. Anything else you want to plug?
No, just Patreon is a way to connect with me. I've been pretty active on it. I've tried to get out at least something once a day. I'm a member of a few Patrons, and I'm like, man, I'm paying you like $20. Where's my stuff, right? I don't get anything, right? But as a result of that, I'm like, let me be honest, people are joining my Patreon. So I try to put out an article at least once a day or several times a week. And I try to put a lot of stuff here. I actually didn't talk about this Iger thing because I thought it was what I said, which is this is a nothing burger that Iger is creating. And I'm glad I got to talk about it here on this channel. And because we've had a long history of Bob Chapek and Iger, and you've been letting me posit my opinions on that here on Midnight's Edge, and I appreciate that. So yeah, so my Patreon's the way to get a hold of me. If you go to my website, you can get my books, and again, I'm in and out right now. I'm waiting right now for feedback. I've handed in for update for those who care. So I've got this major project that by God's grace I've sold to a network. I just handed in the rewritten pilot, and I'm waiting to hear hopefully they'll be happy with it. The producers were happy with it. Let's hope the buyers are happy with it. And then I'm hoping I can come back on and say I've got a full green light and talk about it on this channel in a lot of detail. But let's get there. So any of you have prayers, positive thoughts, send them my way. I'll take it.
We shall keep our fingers crossed. And thanks for joining us today. It's always a pleasure when you have the time to jump in.
Yeah, I got something for you.
When something breaks like this.
I got one thing for him before he goes here, because I think a lot of us earned this today, but especially Kamran.
Okay.
Where'd it go? My damn button. You don't know what I'm looking for.
I don't know.
Oh, where is it? God damn it. I move shit around here.
I fucking knew it! Oh!
You earned that.
Well, it's a delight, and everyone continue to support Midnight's Edge. Continue to support She has her own channel, and I've been on with her recently to talk about Elvis, which is one of my favorite movies this year, and she has really wonderful insights to share. So, and now you've all got this incredibly lovely lady monopolizing.
Thank you, Kamran.
which is good for everyone. So God bless everyone. Tom, Andre, thank you as always for hospitality. I hope I can come back on again. It's going to be a lot of this in and out, when I can and when I'm not dealing, with my own stuff. But for Iger stuff, or Chapek stuff, I like to come on because I think I'm emotionally invested in this man's journey. I will say this: I hope it's true. One of the Disney employees that's on my Patreon, I said, I think Chapek knows who you are. I'm like, I hope so. Hire me, man. You're watching this stuff. Hire me. I got a lot of stuff to do for you. All right, it's all good.
All right. Well, you take care of yourself, Kamran. Thank you for being here, buddy.
Take care, Kamran. Well, that's cool. If Chapek knows who commented on this, he probably knows who we are too.
Oh Lord. But on that note, has to convince us guys that we need to watch Bastard.
Well,
I don't think you really have to try too hard, but okay.
No, if you guys like anime, it's somewhat sexually. It's my earpiece. Somewhat sexually explicit looking anime. It's on Netflix. Netflix still has a lot of fantastic anime to watch, and Bastard is one of them. It's based on a manga from the late 1980s. I love it, so you should probably check it out.
It's on my watch list.
Well, the anime part didn't sell me on it, but what was selling me on it is people were comparing it to heavy metal.
Exactly, and sword and sorcery and stuff, and that's me sold right there.
That's more so for me. But yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Hypergiver. Sorry we had to come back around to that, but we did get to it finally. Sorry it took so long. Wild Rose says, so Game of Thrones is too white now, LOL. I hadn't heard about this. Did you heard about this, Andre?
Yes,
I've never heard of that.
This is in reference to a story that came out regarding the upcoming Fire and Dragon, whatever it's called, that Game of Thrones prequel series, which is coming to HBO Max before long here, where the showrunners went out and said that they went and they changed one of the families, because you have the Targaryens, and then you have like another dynasty, and in the books they are white. But then the showrunners decided that, no, we can't have them white too, because then we have the Targaryens and these other white people. That's just too many white people running around. So then they had the bright idea that we're going to make this other family, we're going to make them black. And that way there won't be so many white people. I mean, this is literally me paraphrasing their exact words.
That's not the creative process.
Well, they felt very creative doing so. And then they did like a feature on George R.R. Martin, who said that, yeah, maybe I could have made that family black as well, but I didn't think about it 20 years ago, which tells me maybe it wasn't the hardest idea. But yeah, so that is what this super chat is in response to, and maybe we'll do a video on it, because it's a shame, because these showrunners generally are talented people, but they would appear to have let's say, take an influence from certain individuals.
And it's not a good influence.
No.
Then Waltman says, so the money ran out for Disney to pay for MCU defense to start your Sabaton rabbit hole, winged hussars, and Christmas truce to start. You're gonna have to unpack that one for me. But
well, it sounds delicious. I'll say that.
I'm not quite sure what he means by Sabaton rabbit hole, but I'll look it up and maybe I can tell you. Winged hussars and Christmas truce to start sounds interesting. Thank you, the Waltman, for.
I'm at a loss here on this one. Sorry.
Well, they sound like they'll go nice with the cranberry sauce
and rabbit chickens.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you for that, though. Hopefully we can interpret that at some point. Then we got a super sticker, it looks like, here from Big Daddy MRI. I can't see what it is anymore. Sorry about that. But thank you for that. Then we have a member chat from Blackest Night, who's been a member for 3 months at the Midnighter level. Thank you for that. Speaking of members, we have a new member in Mr. Boss Nick. Welcome to the program, my friend. Then we have Callum Lyle, who says, I think the MCU X-Men will be kids. It wouldn't surprise me if they hire groomer Ava DuVernay to do the movie. Oh boy, don't give them ideas.
Okay. Don't give them ideas. They don't need any of that. That sounded a little bit too close to be accurate.
Yeah. As far as X-Men though, there's been a little movement on it, but I can see where you're coming from with this whole thing with Miss Marvel being alluded to being a mutant or whatever it was at the end of the show. Spoilers, sorry, but yeah. It's all over the papers anyway already. I think we're gonna get an X-Men movie in the next couple of years, and yes, it will probably have a much younger cast than even. It'll probably be in line with like First Class. Otherwise, they will just continue on with like McAvoy and what's his face as Magneto and Xavier, and continue the First Class cast. That's the two routes I see them going.
They can pick and choose anything they feel like. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do.
Yeah, with the multiverse being open, that's another probability as well.
Exactly.
As far as Ava DuVernay, hopefully nobody lets her do anything anymore ever again. But
can someone please
no, she's on Showtime now. They picked her up on Showtime. She got very lucky. This almost never happens.
Okay, good. Keep her there. That's fine.
This almost never happens. Somebody gets 2 or 3 shows canceled, and it was well publicized that it was canceled and not going through. And then all of a sudden, she gets picked up by another company. Boy, she is really lucky.
She has friends in high places.
Canceled there as well. Just wait and see.
Yeah, she has friends in high places, but we'll see how long that works out for her. Gabriel Knight says, can't help but note the irony that Eric July's comic outraised the Reva lightsaber. No shit, right? And yet he was also the target of more racism. Indeed. More racism than in Reva. Indeed. You are 100% correct there, Gabriel. Did you guys notice that? They had to cancel the Reva HasLab lightsaber?
Of course, we knew they were not going to meet the goal. I think they wanted 5,000 pledges.
Yeah.
The price of the lightsaber was $500. I actually saw this lightsaber when I was at Star Wars Celebration. It's enormous. It's like 6 feet long. It's actually the Inquisitor lightsaber. If you've ever watched the Clone Wars,
right? So you could almost just get it just for the generics aspect of it, or not generic.
They should have just called it the Inquisitor
lightsaber. You think it would have done better?
Oh, yes, it would have sold. And I think they could have maybe changed the hilt and made it a little bit better with more effects. But apparently that one is not the best quality lightsaber anyway. But, having it associated with Reva, I think, lessened its popularity.
Well, if the yeses in the chat are agreeing with you, I would assume that's what they are. And I can see where you're coming from on that. And that makes total sense. But they even had quite a few other things they were comparing it to that were hilarious, like a Ghostbusters, the replica from the new movie. Mm-hmm. The movie that barely grossed 200 million. That one sold out, and they're already reselling it on eBay for like in the hundreds of thousands or hundreds to thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but like in the high hundreds to the like I've seen ones going for like $1,800.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
For Eric July, congratulations
Yeah,
to him.
congratulations
If he
again,
is
yeah.
watching this, we are proud of you. I can't wait to get my copy because I ordered one. And the other thing I was going to say, he's just such a victim of professional jealousy and probably harassment at this point, because he is being blocked on certain platforms. I can't remember which ones, but I think it might have been Reddit. I hope I'm saying that correctly. One of the platforms blocked him, and I can see that they're going to try and create obstacles for him, but it's not going to work.
Indeed. Then I got one from Flex Honcho here, who says, I also enjoy coming in to listen in on the insider info and analysis, especially the Disney stuff. I stay for Tom Skeletor.
You hardly used any of your effects today, Tom.
No, I haven't. I got to be good when Andre's around.
And that super chat where he was talking about Sabaton, Down the Rabbit Hole is the name of their album, but I didn't know that was the name of the album. We were talking about Sabaton, I think it was Monday night.
That explains it. Well, yeah.
Yes.
I should know, seeing as I've seen them in concert, actually.
And they're a Swedish band, or is it Swedish? Yes.
Yeah, they're Swedish. They're Swedish, yes.
Andre says I can't be a bumbling boob.
Exactly.
Callum Lyle says, you missed my Super X-Men chat. No, we didn't, Callum. We just swung back around to it. Sorry about that. We got some out of order day when we have special guests and we're covering certain topics. Sometimes the Super Chats get a little jumbled. Sorry about that. But no, we never leave a Super Chat behind if we can help it. That is definitely our goal here every Midnight's Edge in the morning. Blackest Night says 1.7 million and climbing. The fans have spoken. Mm-hmm. That's right. Rippaverse.
And I think that, gentlemen, and I'm sorry, Tom, for interrupting you. I think that after he sells this first run, people are going to resell these comics for more money, because it's going to be such a demand for them. It's really great to see something like this, something that all of us have wanted to see all along, is to have somebody make a successful comic that everybody can enjoy. I'm so just excited. And Blackest Night put 6.66.
I noticed that now you say that. Interesting. Yes, and then it goes on to say, want a company, fans have spoken and want a company who respects them. I bought covers A and C, Hail Rippaverse and Midnight's Edge and Mead. Well, thank you for that, Blackest Night. We appreciate the support, even if it is a bit devilish. Grand Wazoo sends in €5 and says, Hail Midnight's Edge and panel. Don't interrupt your enemies when they're making mistakes. Indeed. Let them fight. Round 1. Grab your popcorn. Gerald Armstrong says Iger wanted Peter Rice to take. We think we already grabbed this one, but yes, thank you for that again, Gerald Armstrong. Hillis Mallory says, I want to know, when is Disneyland closing? Well, I don't know much about the parks. I know we don't follow much of the parks, Hillis, and there were some people asking stuff in the park about park stuff. And my recommendation is to go to like Lorena, Drunk 3PO. Those guys touch on parks.
Culture,
I think there's I was going to say Culture, and I think even Valiant and a few others have touched on the parks a little bit more than we ever have. That's just a little bit out of our purview, I'd say, unless something is directly kind of correlated with a movie like the whole Star Wars Land thing or whatever. But outside of that, even that was just in passing, kind of mentioning it usually. So
only times we bring up the parks is when it's part of a larger narrative of which the parks are one part. Other than that, plenty other places are better for us. I mean, you've heard some alternatives here already. I'll add to that park place. Check out the webpage.
Oh, yes. Yeah, of course. Park Place. Yeah.
So, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Clownfish TV too, I guess. So, head on over
Clownfish
to all of
as
those.
well.
All of those for park
Yes.
details. They are better at it than us. All of them.
Can't believe I forgot both of those. That's how tired I am. Joe Pat 87 says, confirmed. Iger is a miserable person. Hot take. No, sir. I don't know if that was as hot as you think. He sounds like he's got people out there just seething for him. So I'm not so sure how some of this shit doesn't come directly from him in this article, to be honest with you. Then we got Gabriel Querioga. I think I got it right this time. It says, Hail Midnight's Edge and the corporate machinations behind Disney is more interesting than anything they have put out in years. This is true. There's an HBO series in there somewhere. Oh, I heard Lightyear.
I'd watch that.
I heard Lightyear is also on demand already.
Yeah, it is. They dumped it really quick.
And I also heard that Doctor Strange is coming in. It's in the 45-day window, as I predicted.
Well, that's out already. That's already happened.
Yeah, I heard that. That's what I'm saying. Like, so yeah, I predicted that before it was announced. Shadow, but that was just a prediction. I didn't have anything to go on. Shadow Dancer, the Red Mage says, "Are we going to see the beginning of Chapek derangement syndrome?" No, we already have for the last 2 years.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. I mean, this article from Iger, what if that is if not Chapek derangement syndrome, and it's gonna get worse when the wokies gets reversed in there.
And we knew this was going to start happening. The wokes were going to start eating themselves and certain other people when they didn't have a boogeyman to point the finger at anymore. And that's where the derangement syndrome what part will come from. And
yeah, I mean, these are people that were only united by their joint enemies. Remove their enemies, by hate, and they're going to start. Then their own differences are going to become apparent.
Yeah. And then we got Rave Girl in the house. Whoop, whoop. Says, "Hi all, this shows that Iger doesn't give a crap about Disney. It's all about his ego. This is the final nail in the coffin of the woke era at Disney." I hope you're right on the last part, and yes, I agree, all about his ego.
Absolutely.
Then we got Mecha J, who says, "Did you guys see Chapek putting out his own article in the trades?" Oh, we already answered this one, but thank you again, Mecha J, for that. And we'll have to wait and see on that. We'll definitely, maybe we'll have a show about that next week. Rod Thunderheart's in the house. Says, "Hail Midnight's Edge in the morning, just a couple of bucks to keep the lights on." Well, thank you, Rod.
Electricity is expensive these days.
Exactly. Yes. Jam those gears, my friend. Take care. Olaf Van S says, MSM is taking a dump on Phase 4 Clownfish video. Yeah, there's been some push and pull in the media when it comes to Marvel.
Like the thing that Marvel they're not infallible. It's gonna take a few movies, but now, when honestly, outside of Spider-Man No Way Home, we haven't had a single universally praised MCU project since 2019. That's now 3 years. One good project or universally acclaimed project in 3 years. Everything else is at best mixed.
Are you going by Endgame or Infinity War?
Endgame.
I'd actually go.
I don't like Endgame.
I was just going to say I'd actually go back to Infinity War at this point, because there's a lot of people who are that one's a bit where the divisiveness I think kind of crept in originally outside.
I never liked Endgame. To me, the MCU ended with Infinity War.
And I'm on the other end. Like, I enjoy Endgame, but I totally understand people who don't.
Yeah, right. Like to me, Endgame wasn't an end. That was the beginning of the disastrous era we are currently in.
No, and the farther we get away from it, the more I agree with you that Infinity War should have just been the end of the whole thing. Should have just been it.
It was the perfect ending. It was a beautiful, poetic ending. Not every ending can be happy.
No. And it kind of left everybody in a way to where you could pick up in a couple of years and just do your own personal stories. Or
you could pick up like 5 years later when they
did, which they did. They technically did, but...
Yeah, they did, but then they went back and changed history. What they should have done was just accept their losses. We can't change history,
but yeah.
That would have been far more interesting.
Yeah, it could have been interesting to see where they went from there. Olaf Von S says, we already got this one. I'm sorry about that, Olaf. But yes, a bit of interesting push and pull in the media going on right now, but more dumping on Phase 4 than there is actual praising.
Phase 4 ain't over it. I can't wait for the next one, Black Panther. I mean, it's going to have Namor. It's going to have Doctor Doom. We'll see how appraised it's going to get.
Indeed. And then Dexter White sends in €1. Thank you for that. Dexter White didn't say, well, I don't think you can say anything with $1, but thank you for that. Member chat says from Warwolf, who's been here for 16 months. Thank you for that, Warwolf. And speaking of wolves, we got STR Red Wolf in the house who says, while Crom may not care about you smashing the like button, he has given you the strength and courage to do it. So smash that like button. I almost feel like I should have done that as Arnold.
That's a great super chat right there. And yeah, Tom, do it again like Arnold.
While Crom may not care about you smashing the like button, he has given you strength and courage to do it. So smash the like button, yeah.
Yes, that's a man who knows his Robert E. Howard, man of my own taste.
Nice it. John Evan Bear is here and says your next movie will be called, or should be called, Conkle Tom. Yeah, you sent this in right after he left, man. And I know there's that little bit of delay on the other end, so sorry about that. But I'm sure he would have got a chuckle out of that, John. But we call it Conkle Tom, yes. That'd be interesting. Mike and Ayers says Cameron's now one of my favorite. Oh, we already got this one too, but thank you, Mike. And I think, did we get this one? No, we didn't get this one. Daryl Brewer has been a member for a year. Happy anniversary, Daryl. Who says everybody on the panel and then the chat listening while, or he says good morning. Sorry, listening while good little rostitute. Okay. Everyone have a good day and try to stay cool. I learned a new word today, I guess.
Yeah,
well, thank you.
We shall keep that in mind. I look forward to looking up what that means.
Yes, me too. It sounds like prostitute without a P. Thank you for that, Daryl. Glade Ribbon says, what does the panel think of the sudden success of the Rippa versus Isom indie comic hitting over $1 million in less than a day? Well, we've been talking about it here and there, Glade. I don't know if you caught that or not, but we're over the moon about Eric's success. And I don't know him that well. I've met him a couple times, but he's a really nice guy, and I hope he keeps going and going and going. I hope that there is no limit. I hope this goes far and beyond anybody's expectations, because that's just another big fuck you to all the major labels that have just been doing nothing but fucking up lately. And did you see our buddy Jim Zub was calling out Ani Press dumping a bunch of people yesterday, Andre? But a lot of the things he was saying on Twitter could almost be pointed at Marvel as well. Just kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you caught that or not.
Yeah,
no,
I
string
didn't,
of messages.
I didn't catch it. I will say that Jim Sub, he's a good guy, and even when pencils down and everything went going on, he was one of the few that offered refunds on his books. When like everything crashed and everything were like, nope, what you're sold with, the inventory you have, you're stuck with, not Sub. So Sub is a good guy. Do check out both our interview videos with him, because he was the one heading up Marvel's Conan for Marvel, and he did a really good job at it. So check out our interview with him for that.
I think that speaks volumes, because we're in an era where when people are backing certain projects, there's no guarantee you'll ever even get anything. So, to take the responsibility to say that you are going to give a refund to somebody shows that you do have some integrity.
Yeah. Well, and on the Rippaverse side of things, I'm more impressed that Rippa has put all of himself, has invested his own money up front, done all this first to make sure he had it done before he even decided to start selling it, right? So people aren't going to have to wait long to get this in their hands. That's the beauty of it. Probably
in the next few months or so, because the campaign I think is on for what did he say, another 30 days or something like that. It's exciting to think of how high this bankroll can go, but it's true, he's already completed it. And I think it was Mike who said that he's been doing this for 9 years, I guess. So he's seen all the good and the bad in crowd funding, and
now he's certainly seeing the jealousy.
Yes, yes, he is. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I assure you, like the criticism, what it really boils down to, especially from the establishment industry, is that's our money, give it back.
It is that type of criticism, but something, we're the ones who are spending the money. It's our money. It's the fans who are paying and are going to support him probably for a long time to come. So that I feel very happy about.
Absolutely.
And with that, let's keep going. We have the Tweaky Kid, who's been a member for 16 months at the Midnighter level. Thank you for that. We have Shinatsky here, who says, read the manga Berserk by Kentaro Miura.
Also Dark Metal.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. And then the Waltman was pointing out that Sabaton was a metal man from Sweden.
Yes, we do know. We do know. Although their song titles do taste nice with cranberry sauce.
And then Six sent me some here that I appear to have overlooked and missed in my reading and bouncing back and forth, and I apologize. So I'm going to start at the top here. I got Callum Lyle sent in another $10. Sorry about that. It says, I did this sketch. It's not finished. Of you and Dark Schneider from Bastard. Don't worry, it's romantic. I won't post it until either on Twitter or Insta. So yeah, until you're on either one of those, he won't send that to you, obviously. So there you go.
Okay. I guess I better get on it.
Yeah, I don't know if you have an Instagram.
You know you made it when there's fanfic out there.
Pretty much.
Thank you.
The fan art at that, actually.
Thank you so much.
All right. And then we have Akunin, 1876. Sorry for missing that earlier. Said, watch Top Gun 2 yesterday, and it was a ton of fun. The only complaint I have is that it didn't include the I need some butts line from the original. Interesting. Yeah, but I haven't had a chance to see that yet. Hopefully I will soon, but I hear it's coming out on video before too long anyway. Stephanie Janicek is in the house. If she's still here, says this doesn't have to deal with where Chapek came from. It has to, I think she meant do. It has to do with Chapek having to fix what Iger broke. Yeah, I think we were in agreement with similar assessments as well. I think Iger's definitely trying to mop up his mess at this point. Black Wolf Inc. said, Hail Midnight's Edge, saw Thor and was disappointed, but luckily I got stood up for a date, hilariously humiliating moment, so I had something to cope. Well, sorry to hear you got stood up, but yeah. Hopefully you don't get stood up again. That sucks. Hillis Mallory says, this guy is bad, said by dude on beach. I was there, man, and I know. I think he's making fun of the whole, like, the sources in this article we were reading here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, I do love it when it's like so clear who the sources really are. Like, really, like, for instance, like some articles they could read, like a source close to Amber Heard, whose name is Amber Heard, said.
Or you have the other side, which is coming up in a video we're hopefully going to be dropping soon, where you have people just running with editorial nonsense that's could be as old as 2, 3, 4, 5 or more months, right? Like we have a similar situation coming up in another video we're doing here. So like, yeah, these things, you got to really check and see where the shit's coming from. 9 times out of 10, they all lead back to the same damn source. And it's always, you know, like I don't know. I don't want to give it away. So anyway, moving on, because I know Andre's probably on limited schedule here. Jason Gray said a super chat from Upside Norway to keep the show on. Oh, yeah, so Australia is now Upside Norway.
Yeah, or New Zealand rather is from their point of view, they are on top of the globe.
True.
So if everyone else knows that they're on the right, they're at the bottom. But I do appreciate support from my fellow, shall we say, fellow near Arctic brethren. It's just like a difference between proper Arctic and subarctic, but still.
Indeed. Mech J says, have you seen the latest South Park special, Streaming Wars Part 2 yet? No, I haven't got a chance to.
I haven't even seen Streaming Wars Part 1.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Part 1.
Yeah. So no, I have to see both Part 1, Part 2 when I come back. I have some Bastard to get into, and also there's Red Sonja 4K, which should be available right around the time when I get back.
I was going to say, I think mine shipped out. I think. Yeah. Zabi's kind of...
Yeah, mine hasn't shipped yet, but hopefully it will soon, because it's like... I do wish that they would ship it so it would be at my location on the 19th, but no such luck.
Let me put it to you this way. I've canceled more orders from them and just reordered them from somewhere else than I've actually gotten from them. That tells you anything.
Yeah, well, that's Zabi for you.
But speaking of animated specials and shows, did you see the new trailer that dropped yesterday?
I did. Oh, I can't wait for the beginning of August, like August 4th, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yes. Well, I don't think I got a claim. Let me double check. I didn't as of last night. If I didn't get a claim, did you want to show that real quick since it's short? Or
no, let's not risk it.
All right. Well, either way, you guys got to check out the new Beavis and Butthead trailer. It is hilarious. Cannot wait for August. So till then, we can't wait to check it out. But hopefully, we'll get those remastered.
Yeah, it's going to come over the course of a year.
Shows.
And they say that they're going to remaster everything. I believe that when I see it.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical on that yet, too. But supposedly, according to that one article, it was somebody at Paramount. I can't remember the exact source, but there you go again, just saying a source. And, it's not like we don't do the same thing, but hey,
Yeah,
what can
you do?
Funnily enough, I still don't have a copyright claim for Beavis and Butthead, but you know what I do have a copyright claim for last night?
Oh, do share.
Lord of the Rings was the other thing we got a trailer for. Did you happen to watch that fucking trailer?
Not surprised. Yeah, I did see the trailer.
So let's talk a little bit about that since it's in the title.
Yeah. Give us your thoughts briefly, just briefly, on the Lord of the Rings trailer, because I only have so much time here before I have to drop out.
Yes. What I was going to say is that what I noticed about the trailer is that despite the fact that there are characters from different realms, different abilities, they all look relatively the same. There's nothing that makes each type of character stand out from the rest. It seems a little unpolished, and some of the scenes seem a little fuzzy, almost grainy, not as clear as it could be. So it's still very difficult to figure out what the hell is going on in this trailer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's again, it's difficult to see what's going on, but the bigger question is, do you care? Do you care what's going on? Are you interested in learning what's going on?
It's not pulling my interest right now. That trailer could have been something that they should have just focused on one thing in this trailer rather than showing you bits and pieces from everywhere, just a little bit, just a tiny, thing. And it doesn't grab anybody, but you can't tell one person from another. Nobody is, none of the characters, like the elves, don't look special. They all kind of feel like they're on the same plane and level, and they're not supposed to be, right? They're not supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's equity in Middle Earth for you. Tom, your thoughts?
It looked like generic fantasy. Didn't really feel like Lord of the Rings, and every time they tried, we kind of ran through it last night, and we kind of predicted what the show was going to be, and I have a feeling we're all right. We kind of just made a quick assessment of it, and we're like, oh, okay, the show's going to be about Sauron, and he's going to be a misunderstood villain, and he's going to be some other character until the very end, and then he's going to be revealed to be Sauron, and that's just going to set up everything going forward. And yeah, it's going to be Galadriel going around telling people the whole time that something's coming, something's coming, something's coming. Everybody's going to go, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And then at the very end,
vindication of Galadriel.
Exactly, it's going to be the vindication of Galadriel, and you're going to see a bunch of people are going to get visions of flashing eyeballs and on fire, and that's going to be the show, kids. Like a bunch of CGI birds.
Well, there was something flying in the air, and like everybody saw it, so we can all confirm somebody saw something. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, no, everybody's going to have, I saw a vision of a flaming eye. In the sky. Like everybody's gonna have that, you know what I mean? It's gonna be this constant like reminder of what's to come. And like we kind of broke this down a little bit last night, and like Script Doctor said, you could tell an interesting story in a prequel, but that's the problem you have, is you have to find that interesting story. And I'm paraphrasing a lot of what he said and condensing it, but you have to kind of basically find the interesting story, knowing that everybody already knows where all these characters are usually going to end up and where the story is going to go. So that's the best we could come up with, and even if that's the case, then whatever, that's still kind of boring. But we've overestimated these fuckers in the past. So even when it comes to everything from Ghostbusters to Discovery to you name it, we've given them more benefits of the doubt than they fucking deserved in the past. But and I'm talking about Ghostbusters 2016, because I had my own predictions just before and as I came into this channel as that was going on. So. Like, yeah, but anyway.
Absolutely. And yeah, and all I will say is that, of course, it doesn't interest me in the slightest. It looks about as interesting as Eragon, and it looks every single bit as generic. It reminds me of Eragon. It reminds me of something that in the books may have been okay, but it was an obvious cash grab meant for like, hey, we want a Lord of the Rings of our own. Only Amazon somehow were able to con their way into actually getting that title, but they still made something every bit as generic as Eragon was. Only now it's also book and equity. So it's like wokeness and equity in Middle Earth, the series Eragon edition, hashtag the Galadriel was right or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
or hashtag we're gonna make it right.
yeah,
We're
exactly.
gonna correct all those things that were wrong
Yeah.
in the original.
Hashtag believe the influencers. No, sorry, we mean superfans. Believe the superfans that we had to pay to be excited.
Like diversity and like diversity, like diversity,
Yeah,
inclusion, diversity, inclusion, like inclusion, diversity, inclusion.
That's what they think modern audiences look like. And yeah, so it's obviously true for some, but not. But I would imagine not the majority and not many enough to make this a success. And here's like the thing though. This series is going to go for all 5 seasons, no matter what happens. It's not going to get cancelled, and it's going to cost Amazon a fortune, but they can afford it. It's not going to hurt them in any way. But this thing failing in such a big and visible way, at least by indications, is going to set like an example that the audience doesn't want this.
Yeah. And I made this joke last night too, Dr. Coffin Nails. It's basically 25% different Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's actually
it literally is. I mean, it's not. We're not even joking. It is 25% different Lord of the Rings because it's Warner that has the proper license. This is 25% different.
Yeah, they technically can't tie it in with Lord. Did you hear what Viggo
They can't
Mortensen...
even use the logo. They can't use the logo from the
music,
Peter Jackson
none of
movies.
that shit.
I mean, that's why it's different, because they can't use the original one because they don't have the rights.
No, and did you see what Viggo Mortensen said about it? Was kind of funny.
What did he say?
No, what did he
I
say?
kind of reinterpreted it, but he's like, "Oh, that thing that's coming out, that's on like Apple Plus or something like that." I guess I'll watch that. I'm curious what the source material for it is.
Yeah, that's
or something to that effect. Basically, throwing shade that it has no source material. It felt like to me.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. So good on
now,
him.
the downside of this is we still don't have an answer to the big overall question. This is something we kind of broke down a little bit more last night, so I recommend checking out that video if you want more on this, because, like I said, we're going to be wrapping this up soon anyway. So, but anyhow, like the interesting thing is I wonder if they'll be able to connect it anyway to The Hobbit. For those who don't know, Amazon recently did pick up The Hobbit. We did do a video on that, but I don't think anybody watched it. So. Check that out if you're interested in more info on that. But yeah, so they have the rights to The Hobbit, but when they tried to get the rights to Lord of the Rings, everybody learned the hard lesson that Warner was trying to tell everybody, and that is, we're not letting this go, not from our cold dead hands. Fuck off. Like, so they already had to make sure that they had the War of Rohirrim ready to go when Saul Zaentz company's like, we think the Lord of the Rings rights are
that's hilarious. When like
I know, isn't that
rights owner say we think we have the rights, so we're going to sell the whole thing to Amazon, and Amazon are like, well, we think that they know what the hell they're doing, so we're going to buy it.
And then Warner Bros. Like, time out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good times. We'll have to do a new version.
Yeah, and I think there was a little other red tape that had to be cleared up, but I think that got cleared up with the MGM deal, even though I think that's still in limbo. But regardless, that doesn't matter. The big question is, because correct me if I'm wrong, Andre, this Ring of Power show was a deal made through the Tolkien estate, correct?
Yes. And
exactly. The reason that is, and that's what I thought, because that's why they're only able to use these expanded appendices or whatever they were that were part of, they can't use any of the books, and they can't even use the Silmarillion or anything like that, from my knowledge. But now it makes me wonder if, now that Amazon owns the rights to The Hobbit, if they'll be able to cross this over or not. But maybe not, because that was something that was only for that deal. I know you've talked about that in your original video, Andre, but
yeah, I don't recall the details, but basically it's all the leftover trash that no one really cares about. Like no Lord of the Rings, no Silmarillion, no Hobbit, at least not at the time when this was conceived. It's just leftover trash.
Right. So we don't know if they can eventually lead into the Hobbit, because I said that's the potential problem we have here now.
Yeah, down the line they may be able
off
to
of that
do
into
that.
this. Yeah.
But they still can't go into Lord of the Rings territory. They can't go into War of the Rohirrim territory. So you're still in a potential situation where we're gonna have two competing Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I know which one I'm watching.
Yeah, no shit, right? Well, what I said was funny is because we brought up before what Robert Meyer Burnett has brought up too, and that is that there's still a ton of footage that has never made the movie, plural movies. Not to mention a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. And he's like, I would love it if HBO Max turned around and said, let's let Peter add in all that rest of that stuff and do like a behind the scenes special with all the new behind the scenes footage for HBO Max and make it like a 10, 12, 15 part miniseries as far as the movies go. And it's the Lord of the Rings, the complete saga, right? Like it's all the stuff they filmed.
And it would be hilarious if they did this at the same time as Amazon's
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I know. But they're running out of time now because that's next month or 2 months from now that Amazon's dropping their thing. So you would have heard about this already if they would have been, because they would have had to sink some money into it, because I guarantee you not all the scenes are done, right? I'm sure there's some CGI and stuff that has to be finished.
Absolutely.
And if they were going to do it, it was probably when they did those 4K masters. But that's what it sounds like, is every time they've done this, they just never let Peter go back and do anything again. It's just this kind of thing. So that's a downside. But hopefully they'll get up off their butts now that Zaslav's there and he sees that there's a potential in that. But no, Mecha J, I wish I'd gotten to see Streaming Wars. Maybe I'll get a chance to watch that later on tonight. As soon as I do, I'll let you know. I loved the first part. South Park is back firing on all cylinders. Beavis and Butthead's coming back. It's a good day. It's a good day. Those are two of my favorite things. Then we got Magician Sapphire, who says, after Endgame Phase 4 should have soul starred the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and other Fox copyrighted but Marvel characters and created a parallel universe that could cross over with the OG within 5 to 10 years. I get what you're saying here. I'm trying to remember. I don't think the Fox deal was made
They didn't have time. There was no time to do it.
And even when it was like, at the very last point of that, right?
There was no practical way of doing it. They did not have time.
But I will say this: what they should have done is took a fucking break, reassessed where they were at when they knew that everything got fucked up with James Gunn. Said, let's do Fantastic Four as a period piece. Let's try to figure out what the fuck we're going to do with X-Men. Take a little break here. And let it go for about a year or two. And then when COVID would have happened, it would have been perfect timing for that.
Yeah.
They'd have been like, you know what?
Alternatively,
yeah,
they could
in an
have
alternate
gone
universe
level. They could have alternatively, instead of trying to top things, they could have like, okay, we're just going to scale back to street level and street level heroes, go real low budget so that people have like their adjustments reset, and then we can go big again without it having to compete with what came before.
I just feel like because here's the thing is instead of backing off after Endgame, they doubled down, right? Like I pointed this out a couple shows ago. I don't know if it was a morning show or me, but we have had more Marvel movies in the last year than we did in probably 5 years combined previously.
And all of them sucked.
Yeah, and all of them fucking sucked because you had Black Widow, The Eternals, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man No Way Home being the only outlier. And then you had Doctor Strange and Thor already. Plus, we've got Wakanda Forever coming out before the end of the year.
And you have all of the Disney Plus series.
And the Disney Plus
all
series.
Of that. You're going to have inflation.
Inflation oversaturation, actually.
About the brands. Yeah, oversaturation.
That's what I was saying. Is we had it must have been on Meat. I think we were having this, but we were talking about how it's basically the Marvel has basically been oversaturated. Not only has it been oversaturated, but it's been oversaturated with fucking garbage. Yeah. That's the problem.
I mean, what they could have done was what the Duffer Brothers did, because they kind of halted after season 3 and waited 3 years until they released season 4, which has been spectacular. You know, they took the time they needed to kind of regroup and refocus, go in the right direction that Stranger Things was supposed to be in all along. So, you know, I think that's a perfect example of just taking that break, that time they needed to come back with a strong, well-written script and, you know, just a fantastic season.
Yeah. But there's an interesting event happening on the horizon, Andre. I don't know if you knew about this or not, but the Russo brothers have been kind of cryptically talking about Secret Wars.
Yeah, and I think that's going to fix everything again. If they have control, that's going to fix things.
Because they didn't necessarily have the best terms of leaving when their last project.
No. And them talking, that tells me they're coming back, and they're coming
That's
back
what I was
under the
thinking.
auspices of someone else.
Maybe not, but either way, that to me tells me that they're definitely they're headed in that direction. This is what we've been. I'm gonna call Phase 4 is the Book of Boba Fett phase of the MCU. It was it was a throwaway, and somebody brought it up in the chat here a few minutes ago. Honestly, the best part of most of this fucking phase is you could just go, you know what? It's all multiverse shit, so it didn't really fucking happen. It's Fugazi. You know what I mean? Like after Endgame, everything's kind of just multiverse shit anyway. So whatever, outside of Spider-Man, which eventually leads to the multiverse stuff, which is the only one that handled it correctly as far as anybody's concerned. Anyhow, we have a couple more super chats to get here through, but I don't disagree with your assessment here, Magician Sapphire. I think that would have been a better route to go. Satan's Glory Hole says, do you think Marvel and Disney see success of Rippaverse and understand it's the content, not the medium, that is the problem? If, and I'm sure they're on Marvel's radar, I don't know how much that he's on Disney's radar per se yet. I'm sure some people in the upper echelon may have heard of this, but once Rippa says he starts getting offers from studios, then we'll know that he's definitely hit the deep offices. As far as Marvel goes, I think part of the reason, I'll be honest with you, I don't know about Marvel, but that whole Ani Press firing most of its staff yesterday, I think was partially because of how much money Rippa brought in one fucking day.
Did they reject him or something?
No, but I think it was just like, I think there's a lot of people just standing with, like, in the comics industry right now, they're probably just standing there with their dicks in their whatever's in their hands right now, because they're like, what's your excuse? This man drops a whole series of books, makes now on the verge of $2 million in 48 hours, and he's going to have these books delivered, and probably, I'm willing to bet within, I don't know, I haven't heard about the window, but I'm sure it's quickly, right? As soon as he can get them pressed and sent out. And these guys can't even sell a couple 100,000 books.
I think you mean tens of thousands. They'd
not even that in some cases.
Thousands.
Well, that's the thing, is I think the number one selling book is like a Batman book or something like that sells like 200,000 copies.
Spider-Man doesn't even sell hundreds of thousands.
Well, somebody said something about 100,000 copies or 200,000 copies recently.
Yeah, that's with predatory practices.
Could very well be
by actual people.
But I'm willing to bet anything past that. Like if you probably you'd probably have to combine the entire top 10 or 20.
Yeah,
to make that match is what I'm trying to say. Though.
Absolutely.
So even with whatever the top one is, and somebody knows in the chat, like Nick was talking about last night, because Nick and Klobby are my comic guys. So if either of them are in the house or somebody knows, but like, yeah, like at this point, this is way above and beyond. And we were comparing it earlier. Like I said, I was comparing it to the whole thing with Image, right? That's what it kind of reminds me of, is when those guys went off on their own.
Well,
and they
this is a modern version of it.
I agree. I mean, Image isn't what they used to be, but
and just like with Image, not every single Image book was a success. Most of them failed, but you have some successes that really stood out, and so too it is with Comicsgate. Not every single book and not every single author fails. I mean, some crashes and burns, but those that succeed really succeed, and that's all that's needed to make an impact in the industry. Now, back to the question: if Marvel and Disney corporate, right, they don't care. As for Marvel, I think that many people at lower levels will see it, and I think that they will be smart enough to see it and know what's going on, but they won't necessarily have the clout to say anything public or do anything about it. Of course, they'll try to do the same thing, like sell direct to audience for their own books and stuff like that. For those that are the problem, those that have made the company the woke mess there is, they're just going to see horrible Rosses everywhere, and their argument is going to fall apart if they take a look at who's actually.
I think
doing
they're
these
already
books.
part of that argument, Andre. I think that's where a lot of this pushback's coming from. I think it's those people who are pushing out this idea that, clearly Eric is a racist himself. He's just he's a self-hating black man. He just won't admit it. All his friends are racist, and all his racist audience are buying into this. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of people, but it really isn't.
Yeah, unfortunately, the numbers don't support that.
Exactly. They'll try to spin it any which way they can, just like how they're trying to spin Thor: Love and Thunder as some fucking kind of success.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Exactly. Matthias Fredrickson says, "Hail Midnight's Edge. I would like to see reaction to." You're gonna have to say that one, Andre.
1 minute here. To Flåklypa. Have a good weekend, and Hvite Krist velsigne dere alle. Yeah, that's basically, and white Jesus bless you all. Flåklypa is this Norwegian stop motion animation, and I'm thinking we're going to do like a watch party of that at one point.
Oh, fantastic!
We'll be invited.
Thank you. I'd love to see it.
There is an English dub, but just for shits and giggles. I think we're going to watch it with an original Norwegian dub and English subs.
And Hillis says, tongue was firmly in cheek with dude on beach. Well, hopefully it wasn't in his cheek. Oh, Lord. Dr. Coffindale says, Andre, have you ever read the Cull story, By This Axe I Rule? It's probably my favorite Robert E. Howard story.
You know what? It's fun that you should mention that, because the next Robert E. Howard retrospective I'm working on is Red Sonja, and it's mostly written already. I'm trying to do some fact checking, waiting for some information to get back to me, but that's mostly finished written. So I've already started working on the next one, which is the Cull the Conqueror retrospective. And for that, I reread By This Axe I Rule. Of course, I've read By This Axe I Rule before. The interesting thing about this is that was the final Cull story which Robert E. Howard wrote. And then he let the character rest, like he moved on. And then when inspiration struck and he had the idea for Conan, he took By This Axe I Rule and he rewrote it into the first Conan story. So that's kind of like the link between Conan and Cull. So yeah, I'll go into more details about that in the upcoming retrospective. If that's your favorite Robert E. Howard story, like wow, yeah, it's a really good story. But I'm surprised that you wouldn't say The Shadow Kingdom, because that is probably my favorite Robert E. Howard story, which is also a Cull story.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Coffindales. And then Natasha is reminding you guys to head over to Latino Slant. Polly's actually going to be dropping a video as soon as we're done here, I believe. So do check that out.
Yes.
Then we got Callum Lyle, who says, Tom, did you read the Doctor Strange 2 What If? No, I did not. I sent you on DM on Twitter. Let me take a look, Callum. Let's see here. Where are you at? Why am I not finding it here? Well, I'll keep looking for that real quick. You can't grab the next one, can you? Andy?
Yeah, no, I can totally grab the next one.
Okay.
Adam Wofford says for $5, the elves were supposed to be spiritual beings and flesh. Yeah, they just one more time. If the elves were supposed spiritual beings and flesh, yeah, they just look like the elves from that trash Dungeons and Dragons movie.
I agree.
2000s. Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks from that as well. So hardly great summaries of Lord of the Rings right there. Mm-hmm. And then we have Daniel, who says for $5, bless Warner's greed that is blocking Amazon's plans to defile Tolkien further. Let them fight. Yeah, emphasis being on further, because they're still defiling all they can with the Rings of Power. But they can't touch Lord of the Rings. So always have that. There is that, of course. So then let's just all remember that what we have from Amazon is just some garbage and nothing else. Recognize it for what it is, because it is no more than that. And with that, I do believe that we are fully caught up.
I'm not
unless you have something
finding
behind the
this
scenes here.
Yeah, I'm not finding it, Callum. You sure you sent it to me, buddy? You DM'd it to me, or because I'm not finding it in either my notifications or my DM. But Jason over at Sci-Fi TV wanted me to mention that Cameron and he are going to be interviewing the Miss Marvel actress who plays Aisha on Monday's Bunker show at 1 p.m. Eastern. So check that out.
Very cool. Very cool. Do check that out. Do check that out.
Yeah, I'm not finding it here though, buddy. Crud. I hate that when I can't find anything. I don't internets well either. That's my first problem. Like,
yeah, speaking of internets, I don't do internets very well either here on the hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm assuming. Yeah, you're not doing well either. So
I'm gonna be back again full force on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, I'll be back.
So yeah, Cal,
but there will be videos before then.
I'm not finding it here, buddy. So yeah, we'll have to either address that next time or something, because I'm not seeing it, a meme to have to do with Doctor Strange at all, or anything more recent DMs from you or anything like that. So,
well, then it will have to be for next time.
It will have to wait. Sorry about that. But with that, I want to thank everybody tonight for being here today, actually this morning. Of course, all our special guests who come in, Darkside Droids, who just sent in $10. Thank you so very much for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate the support there. And yeah, with that, Andre, let's thank, of course, Tom Conkle, Cameron Pasha, Culture Casino. Anybody else I'm forgetting? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Nina Infinity has good news in 4 minutes. Do check that out and say we sent you, and then head right over to Polly after that. And yeah, do check back over the course of the weekend. We will have more videos dropping. And yeah, I'll be back again full force from Wednesday on my regular equipment and not this landline. But Tom will have you covered on Monday as well. And maybe I'll pop in then too. We shall see, depending on where in the world I am.
And then Mr. Tickle Trunk has been a member for 16 months. Thank you for that, Mr. Tickle Trunk. And it's fittingly raining on and off here all day, so I think that calls for
some koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koalas in the rain.